Imagine you're watching a show and you're like, oh, what's the dark academia mystery? But also this man's MS just got cured by a boxing gym. This is the best show on television. Hello, welcome back. We're finally, oh my God, doing part 2 of the Riverdale recap on this channel. I did record this once before for I think 3 hours, and I lost the footage and I simply can't deal with this right now. If I spend another moment of my life thinking about Riverdale, a show that I, to my core, believe to be basically a literary masterpiece, but if I spend another second thinking about Riverdale, I will throw myself from atop the CN Tower, and if you're not Canadian, that tower is pretty fucking tall. But if you are new here, my name is Carly. I am recapping the entire series of Riverdale. This is part 2. So this is going to be seasons 3 through 5. I've already done a video on seasons 1 through 2, did the math there in my head, mental math, women in STEM. You can jump in on this one. Like, if it was a different series, I'd be like, go watch the first part, because there's context. For this one, is there? Like, I don't know if there is. So, we're just gonna begin. In every single season, there's about 3 kind of problems. They might be a serial killer that needs to be unmasked, or a plot point that there's like a mystery surrounding it, stuff like that. So I'm gonna outline them. Those are the 3 things like all the way over there. Those 3 quite big, like little squares. I'm so excited to do this part of the video because these 3 seasons of Riverdale are so unhinged, but just the chef's kiss of all chef's kiss. This show is amazing. We didn't know what we had. First of all, starring soon-to-be Oscar nominee, Oscar winner, Charles Melton. That's Reggie, the guy who plays Reggie in Riverdale. Was in May, December. And we are going to see the Riverdale to Academy Award winner pipeline in action this year. And if we don't, I'm not liable for my actions. I would do anything for him. He's my baby boy. And I love him, okay? In these seasons, we have a secret history, dark academia murder plot. We have a, 5-year time jump. We have a Dungeons and Dragon-esque murder mystery. There's a lot to unpack here, and I'm so fucking excited. So let's begin. If you do not know, Jughead, okay? Veronica, Betty, Archie, those are the kind of main characters. Then of course we have Cheryl. Jughead's like an edgy, I'm a weirdo, I don't fit in and I don't want to, is edgy. Betty, her kind of thing through these couple of seasons is really dealing with the fact that her father was unmasked as a serial killer last season. So while Veronica's like, I'm trying to get into Harvard. Betty's like, am I a serial killer? Did I inherit the serial killer gene? And she has an alter ego named Dark Betty, which is just her in a wig. And she thinks that Dark Betty is her serial killer persona. It's a lot. We have Archie. Archie, he's following in a long line of main characters who are the least interesting part of their show. And you need Archie to ground. We need Archie to really ground the series by being the least chaotic one. He actually gets quite a bit to do in the first season that we're covering today. In season 3, Archie gets a lot. But after that, it's just him being like, I love music. I want to be a boxer. You're like, okay, I don't really care about that. Jughead almost got murdered, so I just think that that's more important. Madeline Petch, the actor who plays Cheryl, in the trenches every single episode trying to make the lines they give her work. She at one point in these 3 seasons says, I am Cheryl Blossom, queen of the bees. Like, she's doing the most and that she's lovely. Then we have Kevin, Betty's friend, Tony, Cheryl's girlfriend, and then we'll cover the rest as we go along. At the end of season 2, there was the joint student council elections / mayoral elections all being held in the high school gymnasium, as you do. You want to have your town's mayoral elections held side by side with the student body elections because class president and mayor, those jobs are the same amount of importance. Veronica's mother, Hermione, was elected as mayor. Archie was elected student body class president. So that's all good. But then the police burst into the auditorium and arrest Archie because Archie has been framed for the murder of Cassidy Bullock. Which one? He's up here and he's really small because that character does not matter. There's some throwaway episode. Every once in a while, Mark Consuelos, who plays Hiram Lodge, who is Veronica's dad and just kind of like the big bad villain. Every once in a while, Mark Consuelos goes on vacation. He takes a couple episodes off, and the writers of Riverdale have to kind of craft and create a new villain. That's what Cassidy Bullock is. He tried to, like, rob the kids once. But basically, Hiram murdered him and framed Archie. Okay? So Archie is on trial. It's the trial of Archie Andrews. Where is Atticus Finch when you need him, you know? Jughead is a part of the Southside Serpents. He's like the leader of the Southside Serpents, which is a gang, but like, they don't really do that many bad things anymore. They're like a good gang. The amount of gangs in this town, you don't even want to know. He runs that gang with his father, FP. Okay? And Betty, his girlfriend, is his serpent queen. That doesn't really factor in anywhere. The other gang in the town, the Ghoulies, who I hate with all my heart, and if I had one note, and I love Riverdale, nothing but love for this show, do I need 7 different gang wars in my teen shows? I don't know if I do. The Ghoulies and the Serpents are having a turf war, and the Ghoulies kidnap Hot Dog, Jughead's dog, and are like, you better come get this dog and we want your land. So they break in and they free Hot Dog, who is chained to the wall. It's insane. You don't need to chain the dog. He's fine. He doesn't need to be chained to the wall like he's in a dungeon. So the whole thing there is that the Ghoulies are going to be fighting the Serpents. I do not care. A gang war seems as though it's going to break out right then and there, and the Ghoulies are going to like stab the Serpents with their daggers. But luckily, Cheryl arrives with her bow and arrow. Wish I was kidding, I'm not. She arrives with her bow and arrow and starts shooting bow and arrows, Katniss Everdeen style, and that ends the gang war. Cheryl is kind of serpent adjacent because her girlfriend Tony is also in the Serpents. I don't know if that really just gives you free reign to just start shooting bow and arrows at people, but I love that. So Betty, along with dealing with the fact that her father is a serial killer, now has to deal with the fact that her mother, Alice, and her sister, Polly, have been recruited to join a new-aged cult. They wear like linen pants and smocks. It's very Manson-esque. And that cult is called The Farm. The Farm is run by Edgar, Chad Michael Murray. Okay? So lock that in there. So she's dealing with that. Her mom and sister are joining a cult. Betty truly does not get one moment of reprieve this entire show. They keep trying to recruit Betty and she is not into it. She calls this cult a Heaven's Gate commune for pregnant runaways and wives of serial killers, which is absolutely insane. Because first of all, that pregnant runaway is your sister and that serial killer's wife is your mother. So why don't you address that pregnant runaway and that serial killer's wife with a bit of respect? Also, like, you're a serial killer's daughter, so maybe those in glass houses should not throw stones. You put on a little black wig last season and became a cam girl. Do you really want to open this jar of worms, Betty? I don't know. And Veronica doesn't really have anything going on at this point. Veronica's trying to free Archie. She tries to tamper with the jury and gets in trouble. Her whole thing is she's mad because her father framed her boyfriend for murder, which is fair. I too would be upset. Let's do a quick relationships update before we get into the rest of this season. Betty and Jughead are together. Veronica and Archie are together. Cheryl and Tony are together. And Kevin, who is Betty's good friend, just one of the greatest characters on this show, A-team. Kevin does not get a moment of rest. This show loves to just kind of have a gay character be so sad, but we love him. Where is he? Where is he? Oh, Kevin. Oh no, wait, it goes here. Kevin is dating Moose, but Moose is closeted, okay? And they've made a virginity pact until Halloween, and then I guess at Halloween they're gonna lose their virginity. I don't know why you would make a virginity pact with like a facetious end date that's not marriage. They're gonna have sex. Moose is closeted. It's gonna come into play later. Now it's time for Archie's murder trial. Archie is being defended by his mother, the lawyer, up here. She's played by Molly Ringwald. I love Molly Ringwald. Would lay my life on the fucking line for her. She booked fucking 5 John Hughes movies at 17 and has decided for the rest of her life to just be a cornerstone. She raised me. That's my mother right up there. That's mommy. Carly, watch an episode of Riverdale with Molly Ringwald in it and not say mommy. I can't. It's an impossible challenge. I love her. So her whole defense for Archie at this point is that he's a good boy. He's a nice boy. And also there's no murder weapon and no witnesses. Pretty airtight case. Seems like we've got it. The prosecutor, however, does bring up the fact that in the previous seasons, Archie has formed 2 vigilante justice groups who do violence on criminals. Checkmate. FP, right here, one of the leaders of the Serpents and Jughead's father, gives Archie a serpent kind of gang tattoo on his bicep. So if he goes to prison, he'll get protected by the Serpents in jail. Great. Veronica is continuing to try and tamper with the jury. She gets stopped by Sheriff Puppet. Sheriff Puppet has a real name. That's him right there. okay? Every single character on this show is a model. The sheriff is a model. The prosecutor is a model. You're not allowed to live within the town lines of Riverdale unless you have a chiseled jaw and a six-pack. That's just the laws of the town. We call this sheriff Sheriff Puppet because Kevin's father, Sheriff Keller, used to be the sheriff in the town. But when Hermione got into power and Hiram, Veronica's dad, also was the interim mayor, when he got into power, they hired Sheriff Puppet to be a puppet sheriff. Is this English making sense to you? Basically, he acts on behalf of the lodges to keep their evil vendetta, going. So Sheriff Puppet catches Veronica tampering with the jury. In Sheriff Puppet's defense, jury tampering is a felony, so we're about 2 episodes into season 1 and Veronica's just fully committing felonies out of nowhere. Archie's on the stand. Things are not good for the gang. Jughead is getting ready to go to the courthouse to see the verdict for Archie's trial, and Dilton Doily comes here. That's Dilton Doily. You might remember him from a previous season in which he was shooting guns without a license. So that's kind of his whole thing. He's a gun nut. Okay? Dilton Doily, the character, okay? Sponsored by the NRA. Dilton comes and tells Jughead that him and his friend Ben Button, like Benjamin Button up here, have been playing a Dungeons and Dragons-esque style game called Griffins and Gargoyles, okay? And the dungeon master leader of a Griffins and Gargoyle game is called the Gargoyle King. That's this. That little skull thing, Gargoyle King, okay? So that's one of the main mysteries this season is who the fuck is the Gargoyle King. He's like, things have gotten kind of out of hand and we need your help playing Griffins and Gargoyles. And Jughead's like, I hear you, I love it, I'm listening, nothing but love and light to you. I have to go and see my best friend's verdict for his murder trial. So he leaves, okay? The prosecutor, before the jury has reached a decision, offers Archie a plea deal in which he will serve 2 years in a juvenile detention center instead of going to trial and seeing if the jury finds him guilty or not guilty. You know law, you know the law. Couple of things. Archie, canonically, in this series, they're going into junior year, so he's like, what, 15, 16? Should he not be going to juvie anyway? Seems like he should. Also, the juvie center is called the Leopold and Loeb Juvenile Correctional Facility. This is one of my favorite things Riverdale does. I love it so much, in which they name things, and those names are like references to pieces of media or pieces of history that no teenager who is the target demographic for this show would ever know. It's like the references, who are they for? I love it. Leopold and Loeb are like 1920s teenagers who killed their parents. They were like the Menendez brothers before the Menendez brothers. Who is that reference for? I don't know, but I'm so happy it's in the show. Everybody's like, Archie, don't take the plea deal. There's no murder weapon and no witnesses. Do not take the plea deal. And Archie goes, I'm gonna take the plea deal. So this season's whole thing is Archie is in juvie. Okay? That's kind of Archie's whole thing. He's in juvie. Veronica, because her boyfriend is going to prison because of her father, disowns her father. She goes, I don't have a father anymore. This season, they do not know what to do with poor Veronica. And Camilo Mendes is a wonderful actor. All of these people are good actors. You know what I mean? Soon to be Oscar nominated Reggie. My 2025 prediction, Lili Reinhart, Tony. Get Lili Reinhart a Tony, or I will burn this city to the ground. So Jughead goes back to the trailer where he lives and finds like a rolled up scroll with a weird, scary sketch of the Gargoyle King on the front. And the back, it's a map to Fox Forest, which is it's a forest. You've seen it? If not, you can Google it. Trees are there. He goes to the forest, follows the map, and finds Dilton Doily and Ben Button. Also worth noting, Ben Button is a former victim of Miss Grundy, who is the sex pest groomer teacher from season 1. She groomed Archie, also groomed Ben Button, and the Black Hood, serial killer, right here, murdered her. So, you know, a broken clock is right twice a day. Sometimes a serial killer takes a groomer out and c'est la vie. Jughead goes to Fox Forest, finds Dilton Doily and Ben, like, naked, basically, like, bowing before this weird, scary statue of the Gargoyle King, and then they start foaming at the mouth. So that's bad. After the plea deal, Betty goes back to her house and sees the farm doing an insane kind of ritual in her backyard around a bonfire. They're like kind of just like doing this, but they're in silks and linens, so it's terrifying. And she sees them throw Juniper and Dagwood right here, the twins, the infant twins of Betty's sister and Cheryl's dead brother Jason. They throw them into the fire and Betty faints. And when she wakes up, her mom and her sister are like, that never happened. And Juniper and Dagwood are alive. And we never really get clarification on this. Never really comes back. Move on, get over it. If you're looking for storylines to come back, you're watching the wrong show. We're not here for continuity, we're here for vibes, okay? So Archie's in juvie, and his cellmate is Mad Dog. Mad Dog is quite literally the most ripped person I have ever seen in my life. He has no bones, it's all muscle. It's just muscle. It's crazy. And Mad Dog in their cell has a lot of weird perks. Like he has like an old-timey TV and comic books and stuff, and Archie's like, why does he get all these perks? What's going on here? Out on the prison yard, Archie has a serpent tattoo. The serpents are like, oh, we'll take care of you because you're a serpent. But Joaquin is in juvie. Now, Joaquin used to be a serpent that went to school with everybody. But during last year's school production of Carrie the Musical, the Black Hood, Betty's serial killer father, killed Midge. And Midge was Joaquin's girlfriend. So because this town's serial killer killed Midge during the high school production of Carrie the Musical, Joaquin went to prison for her murder, even though he didn't do it. Are you paying attention? Joaquin knows that Archie isn't a serpent and says he's not a serpent. But the serpents go, okay, you might be a fake serpent, but if you shiv someone, we will let you be in the serpents in prison. This show is obsessed with shivs. No show has been more obsessed with shivs than this show. It is like this show is funded by Big Shiv, and shivs are funneling millions of dollars into the Riverdale writer's room for a shiv to be mentioned every 2 episodes. It's absolutely bonkers, and I'm obsessed with it. So keep your eye out because shivs, they're coming. Archie says, no, I'm not gonna shiv someone, and then gives this unhinged speech that surely you recognize because it was all over Twitter and the internet. One of the guys who's a serpent who is telling Archie to shiv someone goes, I dropped out of school in the 4th grade to run drugs to support my Nana. And Archie goes, well, that means you haven't known the triumphs and defeats, the epic highs and lows of high school football. Which is not a response to somebody's trauma. The system has failed this man, Archie. In response to this, they basically produce a prison-wide football game for all the inmates to play, which is fun. That sounds pretty fun. And the Vixens, which is Riverdale High's cheer squad, stands kind of outside the chain link fence of the prison and performs a sexy rendition of Jailhouse Rock by Elvis Presley. It's pretty offensive, you might think, but the guys are into it. They're happy to see some meat. You know what I mean? They're tongue out, heart eyes, heart pumping through the shirt, the whole works. While this game is happening, the prison guards rush the field and start a prison riot in which the guards then say Mad Dog has died during the riot. Mad Dog never played the football game. Mad Dog said football is stupid, and because of that, he is a man after my own heart. Okay? Also, Dilton has died from cyanide poisoning. Love. Where cyanide entered the Riverdale universe, okay? Ben, still in a coma. Spoiler alert, he's gonna die in a couple of sentences. So Betty and Jughead go to visit Ben in his coma in the hospital, okay? And when they go into the room, they see a little Blair Witch-style kind of trinket hung on the door, and they ask Ben's mother, Mrs. Button, you might have heard of her, why there's a Blair Witch Project-style little doll thing, scary, on the door. And she goes, oh, the girl with the bows, Coquette Love. I gotta stop doing this. This is an impulse at this point. The girl with the bows left it. And Miss Ethel Muggs, right here, played by Barb herself from Stranger Things, has a style, a coquette Lana Del Rey style all her own. So as soon as Mrs. Button says the girl with the bows, Betty and Jughead go, that's Ethel. They go talk to Ethel, and Ethel says they've been playing Griffins and Gargoyles, and she can teach Jughead how to play if she meets her in the woods. She also says she was dating Ben, and she really hates Betty. For no reason, it's funny to watch. She goes, I'm not going to teach Betty how to play, because Betty will never understand how to play Griffins and Gargoyles. And Jughead's like, okay. Ethel says, meet me in the woods tonight and follow this map and go to this bunker that Dilton used to own. This is a World War II style fucking bunker in the middle of the woods, and from here on out, we're going to refer to this bunker as the teen sex bunker, because over the course of the next 3 seasons, every single teen in the town of Riverdale will have sex in the teen sex bunker at one point or another. And that's just realism. You're telling me if your high school town had a bunker in the woods that the teens had access to, every teen would not be losing their virginity in the World War II style bunker? You're fucking lying. Jughead goes to the woods, the Gargoyle King chases him, and the Gargoyle King is like 12 feet tall, seemingly made of nothing but sticks that make a scarecrow body with like a little sheet thrown over it and a deer skull on it. But the Gargoyle King chases Jughead. Jughead runs, still finds the teen sex bunker with Ethel in it. They begin playing a game of Griffins and Gargoyles, and the first round of the game is basically there are 2 goblets or chalices filled with blue Gatorade, or Kool-Aid, I guess. One has cyanide in it, one doesn't. You flip a coin, and whenever it lands on, that's the chalice you drink. Jughead does this just fully does this. You could not pay me. If I showed up at the bunker and they were like, drink cyanide or not, flip for your fate, I'd be like, no, we have a test on Monday. Like, what are you talking about? Midge is dead, so I feel like the lead for the school musical is up for grabs, okay? So I'm gonna be gunning for it. I don't have time to drink this cyanide Kool-Aid. Jughead downs the chalice. It's the unpoisoned one, so he passes the round. And then Ethel absolutely houses the cyanide poisoned Kool-Aid in the other chalice. And they take her to the hospital because she's poisoned with cyanide. Betty and Jughead then go back to the hospital to talk to Ben because he's woken up from his coma. He is crouched on the windowsill of his room and he says, I'm going to be with Dilton now. We both flipped the coin. He was scared to ascend, but I'm not. It's all part of his plan. You'll see. Soon. And then jumps out the window and dies. Rip. May he rest? May he rest? May Midge rest? May Mad Dog rest? The amount of characters that die in this season, strap in. The body count of Riverdale season 3 you can't even fathom. While this is happening, they need to give Veronica something to do. So Veronica opens La Bonne Nuit, which is a child speakeasy that takes place in, I want to say, the basement of Pops. Pops is the 1950s diner in the town that everyone hangs out at. It's run by this guy, Pop Tate, the best character on this fucking show. That's my king right there. I love him. I've never loved a person more than I've loved. I bow down at the altar of Pop Tate. That's my Gargoyle King. Okay? So Veronica's opening a child speakeasy for all the teens to drink at because she needs something to do. And Reggie, future Academy Award winner, is helping her. The whole thing this season is that Hiram is running the White Worm, which is a bar that's competing with Veronica's child speakeasy, and they keep trying to like compete. That's their whole thing this season. It's so boring because Archie is in jail and Betty and Jughead are trying to unravel why every single person in this town is downing cyanide during Dungeons and Dragons, basically. So Hiram keeps trying to frame his daughter for drug trafficking and she keeps trying to, who cares, okay? So Archie, back at juvie, gets pulled by the warden, this guy over here. There's nothing Riverdale loves to do more than frame an old, bald guy as the biggest villain in the world. Bald character actors in the Vancouver area must have been absolutely booking when Riverdale was on because every single villain in the show is a bald man. If a man is bald and he walks on screen during Riverdale, you go, that man's about to be evil. So the warden brings Archie down to this basically an underground pool where he runs juvie cage fighting matches, where juvie prisoners fight against each other just with their fists. I don't know if they kill each other. I don't think they do. But if they do kill each other, then Archie's about to kill some people. But I think they live. I think it's just until they get knocked out. So Archie wins his first fight. He knocks out his opponent with a single uppercut. You know how human strength works. His reward is getting burgers from Pops. Love that. The next time he prolongs the fight and allows himself to get beat up a lot before he then takes out his opponent again with a single uppercut. Archie has superhero powers, apparently. And now he's starting to be given all of Mad Dog's old stuff, like the TV and the comic books and all the stuff that was in their cell already, because Mad Dog used to be in the prison fight thing, and now they're giving them all to Archie, okay? After this happens, Archie kind of starts loudly announcing to the other prisoners that he's planning to escape. Inside voices, please. Meanwhile, over at Betty's house, at the Cooper's house, the farm is now basically setting up shop in her living room trying to recruit her. It's not looking well. FP, Jughead's father, and Alice, Betty's mother, are also dating at this point. Very Foster's core, you know, when your dad is dating your girlfriend's mom, when you're kind of step siblings with your girlfriend. It's freaky, you know? They're dating, but they find a Griffin and Gargoyles handbook that Jughead had taken from the bunker in Jughead's room, and they burn it. So something fishy is going on. They're like, this can't be, what the fuck is this? It's very knowing looks, okay? You have to imagine it. The next day at school, there's a Griffins and Gargoyles handbook in every person's locker. So something is afoot. The game is afoot, as Sherlock Holmes would say. Ethel wakes up from her cyanide coma, and the Gargoyle King is visiting her in the hospital room. Do we think the Gargoyle King, signed the sign-in sheet got like a name tag, kind of clip-clopped. It's Shirley Devilish Hooves up to the 3rd floor to visit Ethel. Maybe. And Ethel says to the Gargoyle King, soon they'll join us, all of them, my king. Great. Now it's time for a 90s episode. This episode basically is answering the question, why did FP and Alice know about Griffins and Gargoyles? What the hell is going on? So every single character is playing their parents at Riverdale High School, because apparently nobody moves in this town, during the 90s. So Betty's playing her mom, Jughead's playing his dad, Archie's playing his dad. You get the point. I'm just gonna like list off some bullet points of what's important in this episode. Alice is pregnant with Charles, right here, who is Betty's half-brother and Jughead's half-brother, because Charles is the baby of Alice and FP that she had in high school. Charles had this whole thing where Chick, who's this serial killer, was dating Charles and then pretended to be Charles and tried to infiltrate the Cooper family. You can watch the last video if you really want to know. So Alice is pregnant with Charles. Former mayor Sierra McCoy is being played by Josie, okay? Josie's amazing. She gets absolutely just thrown to the side in these seasons, and I want a Josie. They have a Pussycats backdoor pilot later. I want the Pussycats Riverdale spinoff. Sierra McCoy is introduced, and she's writing on the high school bathroom mirror in the 90s when she's in high school, end apartheid on the mirror in lipstick. Great sentiment, but begs the question, does apartheid exist now? In the Riverdale universe, apartheid is real. The implications of that are simply too much to think about. Basically, every single parent, including Cheryl playing her mom, Penelope Blossom, all meet in like a Breakfast Club style detention, but it's the 90s, not the 80s. Real throwback to Molly Ringwald. And they all share secrets, okay? You know how you just like share your deepest, darkest secrets with random high schoolers? That's what they're doing. So Penelope shares that she was actually born at the Sisters of Quiet Mercy, which is kind of the asylum / conversion therapy center / orphanage run by the nuns in town. She was adopted by her soon-to-be husband's parents to basically be raised to be his sister / wife. Gross. Keep that. That's gonna come back later. They play Griffins and Gargoyles in detention and they get addicted to it, and then they keep breaking into the school at night to play Griffins and Gargoyles, which doesn't really make any sense because it feels like they could just bring the game home and not have to break into the school. Whatever. While they're at school, they get high on Fizzle Rocks. In the last 2 seasons, Jingle Jangle has been the street drug that's been plaguing Riverdale. Now it's Fizzle Rocks. Fizzle Rocks are heavily coded to be like meth. They're really hard drugs, but the kids are doing them, and they're acting so drunk on the Fizzle Rocks, okay? While they're playing the game at night, Alice goes into the school bathroom to surely go to the bathroom. While she's there, she sees Principal Featherhead walking around the school, and she's like, oh, that's weird. Okay. While she's in the bathroom, when she comes out, there's 2 chalices, and it says, like, drink, flip your fate, or whatever. The Gargoyle King is trying to get her to poison herself, and she says, no, I'm good. The only person with an iota of common sense on this show, and leaves. Then, later, they all go home, and Principal Featherhead is missing, only to be found by the janitor because his dead body was shoved in the janitor's closet, and he has blue lips, which is the telltale sign in Riverdale universe now of somebody who has poisoned themselves with cyanide mixed with blue Kool-Aid, okay? May he rest in peace. Back to the current timeline, that's the 90s episode. Now, Cheryl, Tony, Sweet Pea, where the fuck is Sweet Pea? I haven't seen him in a while. I don't know if he's on this. I'm gonna be honest with you. Oh, there he is. Okay, he's there. Sweet Pea. Because he has kind of a thing with Josie to give her anything to do. Give Josie more. They don't know what to do with Josie or Veronica. I love them both. Give them something to do. So Cheryl, Tony, Sweet Pea, and Jughead are all in the teen sex bunker playing Griffins and Gargoyles, and they're addicted to it now. Yikes. But it's time to break Archie out of juvie. Remember how Archie was kind of loudly announcing he wants to break out of juvie? Well, now's the time. So we're getting the motherfucking A-team together, okay? It's Veronica, Betty, Reggie, Kevin, and Josie. Dream blunt rotation. Those are my sisters. Those are the dolls. That's the girls. Like, that's who I want this show to be. Give me Reggie, Kevin, Josie. That's who I want. Betty too, because Betty honestly is the only character driving any plot on this show. And I like Veronica. So, they also try to recruit Jughead, and Jughead's like, oh, maybe I'll dedicate my next Griffins and Gargoyles campaign to Archie, which is not helpful at all. So Jughead's addicted to the game. Great. So Veronica finds out that Archie is doing underground cage match fighting in this pool, and she goes, okay, well, it'll be way easier to break Archie out of the underground cage match pool area than it will be to break him out of the prison. Smart. That's a woman in STEM. Right there. Archie is aware of this. He knows he's escaping tonight, and he gets brought to the cage to do his next boxing cage match, whatever. Joaquin is there. Joaquin, who used to date Kevin, by the way, that's gonna come in later. Joaquin walks up to Archie, kisses him, and then shivs him and says, "The warden told me if I do this, I would ascend." So the warden and Joaquin are now also playing Griffins and Gargoyles, okay? Meanwhile, Betty is out front of the pool, and she fucks up the warden's car so he can't drive and catch them, I guess. Kevin is dressed in the disguise of a repairman, and he's hanging out by this, like, sewer grate, basically. And while he's there, he sees Joaquin just run into the woods, escape. And that's enough. That he's escaped from now on. That's how Joaquin escapes. Just run into the woods, okay? Don't you hate to run into your ex when you're in disguise as a repairman trying to break your friend out of jail? It's just so awkward. Archie is going to run away while he's doing his next match, climb through the grate, and escape that way. But his next match is Mad Dog. I bet you thought Mad Dog was dead. Bet you thought you saw the last of him. No, Mad Dog is alive. They fart. They fight, and while they're fighting, Archie, like, whispers into his ear. It's very sexual. All of Riverdale, just whenever I describe anything, imagine there's kind of a light undertone of horniness. It's just a horny show. He's like, "Hey, I'm gonna escape. Do you want to escape through the grate with me?" And Mad Dog's like, "I tried to escape through the grate, but I can't fit because I'm so muscly." But then Mad Dog holds all the guards off while they try and get Archie as he runs away. So Mad Dog, we love. Archie gets out through the grate, and they hide him while he's on the lam in the teen sex bunker, okay? After Archie escapes, we see the warden in his office holding a Griffins and Gargoyle, like, card, like a playing card. And it says, "Kill the Red Paladin." And then he drinks the cyanide punch, killing himself. Warden, you are gone, but not forgotten. So this new Kill the Red Paladin card basically means that all these people playing Griffins and Gargoyles who are truly unhinged because they're drinking cyanide have to kill Archie. Like, that's the next level in the game, is try to kill Archie. So Veronica is a hacker now. She hacks into the system, gets Archie's case file, sees that it's been messed up and a lot of suspects have been paid off and that the jury was tampered with the other way, not the way she wanted to. And she tries to hand this off to her mother, and security throws her in jail. Don't worry, she gets freed, but she gets stopped. But her mom has this information, okay? So that's gonna come out later. I'm just gonna read this because you just need to just keep up, okay? It's a doozy, just keep up. Betty writes a letter from the Gargoyle King to all the parents, posing as the Gargoyle King and telling them to meet at La Bonne Nuit, the child speakeasy, so she can accuse them of knowing something about Griffins and Gargoyles. This is because she found out that the warden who killed himself used to run the ROTC at Riverdale High School. The ROTC, for my non-Americans, because I am not American and didn't know this was a thing, it's basically a class that's Army. It's Army class, okay? So because he was an instructor, he also was involved back in the 90s in their game. So Hermione, Veronica's mom, accuses Penelope of being the Gargoyle King because Penelope was like the game master, the dungeon master of their game when they were playing it. But Penelope accuses Dilton's dad of killing Principal Featherhead. Okay? That's Dilton's dad. That's Penelope. So he poisoned the chalice so that him and Penelope could kill themselves and be together in heaven, I guess. Ascend, because that's a big thing in this game. You're gonna ascend. But she said no. Then Principal Featherhead drank the chalice on accident. And then years later, Dilton's dad came and told Penelope all of this and said that they should be together again. She turned him down because she was with Clifford, her brother slash husband at the time. So then Dilton's father killed himself by locking himself in his garage and committing suicide with carbon monoxide poisoning. Horrifying. However, the toxicology report revealed that he actually died due to oleander poisoning, not cyanide. It was a framed cyanide suicide. He was actually poisoned. He didn't kill himself. And Penelope grows oleander in her garden. Confirmed kill on Penelope. Penelope grows oleander in her greenhouse. Alice is also cagey as to why she reported Dilton's dad's death, say that f***ing 5 times fast, as a suicide, because she's like the journalist. She's the news anchor in the town. After this, the Coopers go home. Betty and her mom go home. The Gargoyle King is there in their house, chases them into Betty's room where there is a fake headstone with Dilton Doiley's dad's name just kind of engraved onto it. And that's it. Just a little prank that the Gargoyle King wants to play on them. So shaken up from this, Alice decides to move her, Polly, and the twins onto the farm's compound, the cult's compound, and sends Betty to the Sisters of Quiet Mercy to be at the asylum part of it. I guess. The serpents corner Joaquin because after Archie got out of prison, he discovered that the warden had carved a rune onto his back, like a pagan symbol. R-U-N-E, a rune, right? Am I saying this crazy? A rune is carved. It doesn't sound real anymore. And they're like, what does this mean? And Joaquin reveals that in like Griffin's and Gargoyle world, that rune means that Archie has been marked for death. They let Joaquin go after this information, and he is later found dead with the same rune carved on his head. It's not funny, I just don't know how rune is supposed to be said. Rest in peace. So, because he's marked for death, Archie and Jughead go on the lam, and they decide to walk on foot to Toledo, where Jughead's mother lives. Now, Riverdale is mentioned to be in a county that is in New York. It's kind of an offhanded comment. And Toledo, wherever the f that, I just did the math, okay? So they're on foot, and it should take them truly days on foot, uninterrupted walking of about 4 days to get to Toledo, but that's what they're doing. Club, bus, another club, plane, that's them, but it's foot, on the lam, to Toledo. That's what they're doing. So they stop in a small town along the way and meet Lori Lake. That's her up there. Played by Miss Daisy Jones herself, Riley Keough. Riley Keough tweeted her way onto the show. She tweeted like, I just want to get cast in Riverdale, and then got cast in Riverdale. To be Elvis Presley's granddaughter, what must that be like? Very talented, great actress. So they're staying in Lori's barn, and Jughead decides to go into town to like get supplies and see what the hell is going on. So there's like an understanding in this town that all the men are working on a job down by the river. Jughead goes into town, sees everyone playing Griffins and Gargoyles, and is like, hey, what are you guys doing? And they say that the town is being ran by the man in black, which is Hiram. Hiram is running this town, and he's building a for-profit prison down by the river, and that is the job that everybody is working on. The way that Riverdale is like very much, it's like a teen show where all the teens just like have sex in the teen sex bunker, but it's also so against the prison industrial complex. It's wild. So basically Jughead runs back to be like, oh no, everybody's in the pocket of Hiram Lodge, and after kind of making out with Archie and holding a knife to his neck, Lori Lake hits him over the head with a frying pan and tries to sell him back to Hiram Lodge to repay her family's debts, but Jughead gets there in time, unties Archie, they're on the run, they make it to Toledo, it's all good. Sheriff Puppet, also just found with no head and no hands. Dead. No head, no hands, KO. When Betty is at the asylum, she discovers that all the girls who are at the Sisters of Quiet Mercy, aka asylum, aka conversion therapy place, aka orphanage, they're all being drugged with fizzle rocks. Betty refuses to take them, but figures out that she needs to kind of like figure out what the hell is going on here. Because all the girls are being given fizzle rocks, and there's also this little room in the basement where when Betty walked up to it, the door is locked and there's just girls screaming inside. So she decides to pick a fight with Ethel. So she fakes a fight with Ethel and is like, I know that you kissed Jughead. And she says, what about Bughead, which is their ship name, Betty and Jughead. She goes, is it Ethelhead now? And then fakes a seizure and goes to the infirmary. Feels like you didn't need to start a fight to fake the seizure, but whatever. While she's in the infirmary, she finds her file and sees that Hiram Lodge and Claudius Blossom, who's Clifford Blossom's twin brother, who is in business with Hiram, ordered for her to be given extra fizzle rocks. So somewhere along the line, Claudius Blossom and Hiram Lodge are at the head of this fizzle rocks conspiracy theory. It's also worth noting the third plot point and mystery of this season is that for some reason every single teenage girl in town has now been suffering seizures. Why? We'll find out soon enough. She tries to escape and gets caught by the nuns and then forced to take fizzle rocks and put in the room and is screaming. We don't see what she sees. But then Betty figures out that the fizzle rocks are hallucinogenic drugs and people are being put in this room with a fake Gargoyle King statue and they're hallucinating. So she gets the drugs out of her system, gets the drugs out of Ethel's system. They hold the head nun hostage with a shiv, and the nun admits that Griffins and Gargoyles was created as a disciplinary tactic to scare the girls while they were in the asylum. And she doesn't know how it escaped, but it escaped and left the Sisters of Quiet Mercy. Ethel and Betty free every single patient in the Sisters of Quiet Mercy, orphans, queer teens being put through conversion therapy, and mentally ill girls alike free on the streets, and lets them post up in the Cooper household, okay? So, we now know that griffins and gargoyles escaped the Sisters of Quiet Mercy, and they don't know how it's been sicked on the town. I will pose to you that Penelope Blossom admitted to being a orphan who was basically sold into marriage from the Sisters of Quiet Mercy. So we're gonna assume that she took it out with her, okay? She brought griffins and gargoyles out with her to sick on the town, okay? The cheerleaders have a group seizure. Jughead and Archie make it to Toledo and meet Gladys, Jughead's mother, and Jellybean, Jughead's sister, okay? They're staying for a while, and while that's happening, Penny Peabody, who is the head of the Ghoulies, shows up for some godforsaken reason. She basically wants to return Archie for the bounty and says that everybody who is helping Archie and Archie now have a bounty on their head. Peace and love, awesome. Gladys attacks her with a knife and kills her. Great. Penny Peabody, you had no impact on the plot. Sorry to see you go. So because Hiram has now put a bounty on anybody who helps Archie's head, Archie heads for the Canadian border alone. Jellybean, Gladys, and Jughead head back to Riverdale together. While all the girls from the asylum and the Sisters of Quiet Mercy are staying at the Cooper house, Polly and Evelyn recruit them to the farm. Evelyn is the head of the cult's Edgar's daughter, and she goes to school and tries to recruit people to join the farm. That's basically her whole gig. Riverdale shoots in Canada, and I, as a person who loves attention and is incredibly loud, know a lot of actors. I do know Zoe. She slays in this role. Love her dearly. Wonderful person. That's all I'm gonna say. Zoe plays Evelyn, and she's killing it in this role. We love that for her. Archie breaks up with Veronica as a mercy breakup because now he's going on the lam to the Canadian border and staying in a cabin. So Veronica, technically single. The other thing Veronica does is she researches in her father's records because her father is trying to build this for-profit prison so that in the basement of his prison he can have a Fizzle Rocks lab so he can distribute Fizzle Rocks, and she finds out that the Fizzle Rocks are being dealt by a third gang called the Gargoyles. So now we have the Serpents, which are the gang that the main characters are in, and they're nice and they don't really do that many bad things. The Ghoulies, who are on a turf war with the Serpents and nasty, and now the Gargoyles, a third gang made basically exclusively to deal Fizzle Rocks to town members. Are you keeping up? Also, when Archie is headed to the Canadian border, he has a Gone Girl moment in which he dyes his hair black instead of its iconic red. He's vibing, hanging out at this cabin on the Canadian border, and then gets attacked by a grizzly bear. I wish I was he gets maimed by a grizzly bear. While this is happening, Veronica and Reggie kiss while they're managing the teen speakeasy. And I love this. Anything that gets Charles Melton more screen time, I'm here for. While this is happening, because he gets mauled by a grizzly bear, and that's, I guess, his hero's journeys type thing, Veronica's mom finally decides to read the files that Veronica hacked about Archie's case, exonerates him. Archie can return home, go to high school, and the day he comes back to high school is the day that they take the PSAT. I would scream. He takes this practice SAT, bombs, because he was on the lam and in juvie, and Principal Weatherby, where the hell is he? Up here, says Archie should repeat junior year, which he should. Archie takes this as if Principal Weatherby has said a slur to his face, is so offended, and it's like, Archie, babe, you missed 3 months of school because you were on the lam and in juvie. Just take the year off, take some time for yourself, recover, and then come back next year. So then Archie is having a discussion with Reggie, and he's talking to Reggie, and he's like, hey, what do you think about cheating? Because Archie's thinking of cheating on the SATs. And Reggie's like, cheating? Veronica told you we kissed? Because he's a himbo and he doesn't know better. So now Archie knows that Reggie and Veronica kissed. Meanwhile, in Betty's household, because Betty cannot catch a break, Alice has drained all of the Cooper's bank accounts, including Betty's college fund, so that she can donate all the funds to the farm, the cult. So Betty has to visit her serial killer father, Hal, in prison and get him to sign off on a waiver saying that he didn't approve this. So Betty goes and visits him. It's very Silence of the Lambs. He's like wearing one of those Hannibal Lecter like masks, you know what I mean? And they have like a Clarice Lispector, Hannibal Lecter kind of conversations together. And he says that he will trade a signed affidavit for a Griffins and Gargoyle handbook. While Betty is leaving, the guard says that Betty's mom visits Hal every day in prison. And Betty's like, that doesn't sound like my mom. She's heavily in a cult and dating Jughead's father. What does she look like? And the guard is like, oh, she has red hair. So Betty finds out that Penelope Blossom, who is cousins, because the Coopers and the Blossoms are all cousins. They have the same grandparents. Although I guess she doesn't because she was adopted. But still, they've been having conjugal visits and fucking. Great. And then Betty, now kind of on this path, sniffing around, bribes Dr. Curdle. Dr. Curdle is the town coroner. He accepts bribes from 16-year-old girls and money, and he reveals that Clifford Blossom, Cheryl's dead father, who killed himself at the end of season 1? 2? I don't remember. After it was revealed that he shot Jason in the head, his son in the head. But Dr. Curdle says that Clifford was actually poisoned. He didn't kill himself. So presumably another confirmed kill for Penelope Blossom. Betty confronts Penelope and says, like, you're killing all these people. What are you doing? Why, you're a murderer. And Penelope says, men. They are the true poison. Which let her she's been traumatized. She was bought from the orphanage to be her husband's sister. She's had a hard life. If she needs to kill a couple men, so be it. And Penelope reveals that the seizure epidemic that all the teen girls are experiencing in the town is because Claudius is dumping Fizzle Rock's runoff from the Fizzle Rock's drug lab in the basement of the prison into the water supply. Also, FP's the sheriff now. Jughead's dad is the sheriff. Sometimes a man can be a leader of a gang and the sheriff. Don't think about it too hard, okay? Somebody shoots Hiram point blank in the chest and he survives, but he's in a coma. Veronica hires Jughead to figure out who shot her father because she thinks it was her mother. But while Jughead is on the trail, Hermione reveals that she was actually on the phone with Hiram when he was shot, so it couldn't be her. But Hiram was having an affair, so maybe there was something there. So Jughead follows this lead and finds in the Pembroke, which is the hotel that the lodges are staying at, Hiram Lodge's mistress, who is played by Kelly fucking Ripa. That's right, Kelly Ripa, bitch. Strap in. Kelly Ripa is Mark Consuelos' real-life wife, and I love it. She is the water safety inspector who has been paid off by Hiram and Claudius so that they can dump the Fizzle Rock's runoff into the water. Love it. Jughead now tails Hermione to a scary cabin in the woods to tell her what he's discovered. Hermione reveals that she is having an affair with Sheriff Puppet, who is alive. Remember how he had his head and hands cut off? Don't think about it, he's alive. Also, Claudius has been placed under citizen's arrest and then is found dead in his cell. Nobody knows why, doesn't matter. And FP admits to Jughead that he was the one who shot Hiram, and he did it because he was hired by Hermione to shoot her husband. And becoming the sheriff of the town was his reward for shooting Hiram. Then Jughead asks Hermione about this, and she says that she did hire FP to shoot Hiram. But then she also got Sheriff Puppet to shoot him. So even though FP didn't shoot Hiram, he had to admit that he did it because he accepted the hit anyway, if that makes sense. Like, he didn't actually kill Hiram, but he agreed that he was going to kill Hiram. So now he's basically at Hermione's beck and call because she could say that he killed her husband. Then Hermione shoots Sheriff Puppet, so Sheriff Puppet's dead again. Great. Love this random storyline detour. Josie's mom, Mayor McCoy, and Kevin's father, Sheriff Keller, although they both don't have those positions anymore, are getting married. They don't want to have a big wedding, but Kevin says they at least need to have a reception at La Bonne Nuit, the teen speakeasy, because if they don't, then the Gargoyle King has won. Absolutely obsessed with it. Archie is Josie's date, and they're dating from now on. Nothing comes of this because the show does not know the absolute gift that they have with Josie, but they're dating now. Kevin asks Moose to be his date to his father's wedding, and Moose says no because he's not out to his family yet. Cheryl overhears this and, trying to be helpful, basically puts a blind item in the school announcements being like, some ROTC cadet whose name is like a deer is gay, and outs Moose to everybody on the school announcements. But because of this, Moose comes out to his dad, and his dad is okay with it. It's fine. So instead of going to his father's reception, Moose and Kevin go to have sex in the teen sex bunker. However, the Gargoyle King and the Gargoyles, who are the gang members, I guess, pull Kevin and Moose out of the teen sex bunker before they have sex and tell them to drink a poisoned chalice. But Cheryl, being the queen that she is, for the second time in this season, appears out of thin air from the bushes and starts mowing down people with her bow and arrow. She then unmasks the Gargoyle King and reveals that it is Moose's father. Moose's father is gay and in high school tried to kiss Sheriff Keller, and Sheriff Keller's like, I'm not gay, sorry. So the fact that he's closeted and then got to see his son be uncloseted and with the son of the guy he had a crush on was too much for him, so he just wanted to like scare Moose. Yuck. Bad. So Moose goes and lives with his aunt, and Kevin and Moose break up, and it's sad because they don't want to break up, but Moose needs a different living situation. He simply needs it. Gladys, Jughead's mother, is now combining all of the gangs in the town, the Serpents, the Gargoyles, and the Ghoulies, thank God. So it's one mega gang, the Boy Genius of Riverdale gangs, a supergroup gang, because she wants to be the queen of crime in Riverdale, and she agrees to have Hiram and Hermione look the other way to all her crimes, and she can sell fizzle rocks as long as she agrees to keep Hiram's jails at his for-profit prison, all the cells full of prisoners. What the fuck is happening? Jughead finds out that his mom is doing this and is trying to take her down without his father knowing, because his father broke up with Alice to be with Gladys to try and make their family dynamic work. Yikes. Now, I know that you, like me, are so happy because while there used to be 3 gangs in Riverdale, now there's 1. But Cheryl and Tony get kicked out of the Serpents because they are doing bling ring house robberies, and the Serpents are a crime-free gang. So they form their all-girl kind of pink ladies gang called the Pretty Poisons. So there's another gang. Also, Kevin has joined the farm. Alice puts the Cooper's house on the market, and FP buys it to try and make it the family home for Gladys and Jellybean and Jughead. Hiram finds out that it was Hermione who shot him, and thinks that Hermione is the person who burned down his Fizzle Rocks drug lab. Veronica takes the fall for both of these and is now in debt to her father $30,000 and trying to figure out how to repay it. Archie is working at a boxing gym now. That's all you need to know. It's a boxing storyline. So boring. Who cares? The Gargoyle King is still at large. We know that the Fizzle Rocks were in the water, and that's what made all the girls have seizures, but we still don't know who the Gargoyle King is. But while he's at the boxing gym, he finds a little boy named Ricky, who has the same rune he has that's marking him for death. So he decides to let Ricky stay over at his house to protect him from being murdered by the gargoyles. So he calls Ricky's social worker and is like, hey, I'm just gonna let Ricky stay with me because he has this rune on him and it's a whole thing, but I'm just gonna let him stay with me. And then Ricky's social worker is like, oh, Ricky has a lot of anger issues and he's pretty destructive. And then Ricky starts acting crazy, really creepy, stabs Archie with a shiv, and reveals that he carved himself with the rune because he is Joaquin's brother and wants to finish what Joaquin started. Okay? More shiv representation. Assuming that everybody who's trying to kill Archie has this Kill the Red Paladin card, but the gang decides the best course of action is invite everybody to the boxing gym and let them try to kill Archie once. And if they get to kill him, if they kill him, then they do, but they only get one chance to kill him. Everyone shows up. Nobody kills him. Cheryl and Tony break up because they do. This really affects Cheryl, and she demands that the school musical be Heather's the Musical. That's right. It's time for the Riverdale musical episode. Heather's Edition. I know you're just frothing at the mouth for it. So let's go through the cast list. Cheryl is playing Heather Chandler. Veronica is playing Heather McNamara. Betty is playing Heather Duke. Josie is Veronica. Reggie and Archie are, I forget their names, but they sing the song they're the 2 football players who get framed for doing like a murder-suicide and they're gay. If you love Heather's the Musical, you'll know what I mean. Jughead seems to be the only person not involved with the school musical, and I commend him for this. Kevin is, of course, directing, and Evelyn, the daughter of the cult leader, is assistant directing and kind of using this as like a way to recruit more teenagers for the cult. So they decide to have a pre-cast party, like a party before the musical is on, at the cult's compound. And Evelyn encourages everybody to wear their costumes, which is a great, you're gonna ruin the costumes then. Somebody's gonna throw up sourpuss or like a White Claw onto their costume and then it's ruined before the show starts. Whatever. The cult's new compound is the Sisters of Quiet Mercy. because all of the patients were released by Betty and Ethel. And then after that happened, all of the nuns drank cyanide and killed themselves. So now that's where the cult is kind of hanging out. They all are there. They sing Big Fun, the song. Whatever. Evelyn gives Kevin a drug brownie, and he hallucinates Midge, who died during the school's production of Carrie the Musical. I know I already said that, but I need to repeat it a million times. I need you to know that she died during her school's production of Carrie the Musical. He hallucinates Midge saying, "You killed me. All your fault. You killed me, Kevin." So he's having a bad time. Also, Principal Weatherby, the principal of the school, joins the farm. Hiram and Hermione are getting a divorce, and this shocks Veronica to her core, as if her mother didn't take a hit out on her father. So she sings Lifeboat, and she's upset that her parents are getting divorced even though her mother tried to murder her father not a week ago. Jughead discovers that even though him and his family have moved into the Cooper's old house, he goes back to the trailer that he was raised in, and his mother has turned that into a Fizzle Rocks drug lab. Him and Betty burn it down about an hour before call time for the musical. They sing 17. It's like they're just like, wow, we gotta burn this down. Then they're like, let us be 17. The tone of this episode is shocking. It's amazing. They're so upset and they're burning a trailer to the ground and they're singing 17 the musical from Heathers. There's nothing more I could ask for. So they show up just on time to make call time for Heathers the musical. For some reason, Jughead is now recruited into the cast. It's never mentioned. He's just doing the choreography and singing along to the 17 reprise. With 30 seconds to go, they're like, hey, Jughead, you're here. You want to pop in on 17? Just want to get in on the reprise? And he's like, sure. Horrifying. At the end of the musical, Edgar, the head of the cult, does a big slow clap. He stands up and does a big slow clap. And it's Chad Michael Murray, and everyone's like, fuck, whoa, the cult leader's here, no! After this, the farm decide to do, like the next day, an open house. And bitch, if there was a cult open house in my town, I'd be at the front of that damn line. I would be at the front of that line. You get to go in the cult compound for free? Oh, fuck. Betty goes, tries to join the cult, to take them down from the inside, and they reject her. Evelyn's like, absolutely not. So Betty sends Cheryl in to go undercover to take the cult down. And then Cheryl just immediately gets brainwashed. Mad Dog calls Archie and says that all of the guys who are in juvie are getting shipped to Hiram's for-profit prison, and that all of their parole dates have been postponed. So Archie and Veronica go to the governor and are like, hey, you attended those child death matches in the basement of the pool, and if you don't release all of these guys, we're gonna tell everyone. And then the governor goes, sure, released. So now Mad Dog is going to Riverdale High School. The gargoyles kidnap Jellybean under the guise of a Griffins and Gargoyle quest. So now Gladys, FP, and Jughead all have to do this big Griffins and Gargoyles, like all these tasks to free Jellybean. Tony, Cheryl's girlfriend, joins the farm to take the farm down from the inside now. Archie does a boxing match where his opponent is high on Fizzle Rocks and Archie punches him and he dies. It's not important to the plot, it's just Archie's killed a man. This guy, he's dead because of Archie. Josie decides to go on tour with her father, who's a famous musician, and leaves town. Her and Archie break up. Poor Josie. Give her more screen time. And Hal, Betty's dad, asks to be transferred from his prison to Hiram's new for-profit prison because there are ocean view cells, or waterfront cells. Waterfront cells, they're not on the ocean. Also, if there's waterfront cells, like, everyone's surely escaping from this prison, right? So Betty requests through Hiram a transfer for Hal, and it's granted. Also now Alice is getting married to Edgar in like a weird sister-wives cult marriage. So Betty decides to do some hardcore research on what's going on in the farm. She's in her PI, private eye detective mode, and she finds out that they're trying to indoctrinate, like keep Juniper and Dagwood, the baby twins, in the cult. She also finds out that Evelyn, Edgar's daughter, is not her daughter and is actually 30 years old and just looks young and is actually his wife. They're able to save Dagwood from the farm because Penelope pays for Dagwood to be taken out because she's a misogynist and lets Juniper just rot there. So Betty breaks into the farm, but Tony is brainwashed and it's a setup, and they try to get her to join again, but she runs away and she's fine. While Hal is getting transferred to his new waterfront cell, there's a massive car crash and Hal dies. Okay? May he rest. Then we go back to the Griffins and Gargoyles' quest to free Jellybean. The first thing they need to do is they have to tell the truth. So Gladys tells FP that she's like a crime lord, and that breaks FP's heart. The second quest is Jughead and FP have to rob Pops. So they go to Pops' diner and try to rob him, but Pops has like a loaded pistol in the cash register and shoots FP in the chest. He's fine, but Pops is like, oh, you want to rob me? No, that's funny. No, try and rub me. Just absolutely shoots him. The third round is Gladys has to do another knife fight with Penny Peabody, who's not dead. She just lost an eye and is now wearing an eye patch, like a studded eye patch, because Gladys took out her eye but didn't kill her. That girl. And then the final round is Jughead has to basically get in a freezer, like a little coffin freezer, and that'll be it. But as Jughead is getting locked into this freezer, he hears Kurtz, who's like the gargoyle gang member who's running this whole thing. As soon as he's locking Jughead in the freezer, he goes, "Okay, kill Jellybean." And he goes, "No!" As soon as Jughead gets locked in the freezer, the Gargoyle King appears, murders Kurtz, and Jellybean is fine. Molly Ringwald is now in town, taking care of Archie. She's gonna stay around for a while. At this point in the narrative, Luke Perry has died. If you didn't know, Luke Perry died like during the filming of Riverdale. So now she's taking his place. Very sad. Nothing to say about that, but that's very sad. But Molly Ringwald is in town. She's also a lesbian. She has a girlfriend who has connections at the Naval Academy, and I love her. Now, it's time for junior prom. Logically, that just makes sense. Jughead just went through like a night-long kind of quest to save his sister. The Gargoyle King murdered somebody. It's that time. You know what I mean? The cult had an open house and tried to kill Betty. It's time for the junior prom. Jughead and Betty are going together. Cheryl and Tony are running for co-prom queens, but then they can't because the farm is against prom queens. It's one of their pillars of their beliefs. And then Archie and Veronica are going as friends. Sure. While Betty is at prom, she gets a message from the Gargoyle King saying, "Come and meet me." And she goes to the bathroom, and it's Hal, who is alive and has a hook for a hand. He's back from the dead, and he's got a hook for a hand, baby. Slinging slasher vibes, Captain Hook vibes. The thing that you need to know about Hal and his hook for a hand is he loves to kind of menacingly drag it along. Okay? At a certain point, Archie and Veronica set up an FBI sting for Hiram, and Hiram gets arrested by the FBI, and as he's getting arrested, he kind of breaks free from their hold and starts pounding hard on Archie's chest and pins him to the ground. And it's just so funny, because like in like the show, like KJ Apa, who plays Archie, looks quite old, and Mark Consuelos looks fairly young, so like the age difference, it's like a 35-year-old punching a 25-year-old on the chest. But canonically, like, Archie's like 16, and Mark Consuelos is punching this child's chest as hard as he can. Ethel got re-inducted into the fucking Griffins and Gargoyles cult again, and tells Betty and Jughead that the true Gargoyle King isn't Hal, he just wanted to see Betty, and that the actual Gargoyle King is Jason Blossom. So Betty, like any regular person, decides to exhume Jason's corpse, dig up his grave, and Jason's body is not in the grave. Betty, while also doing the Griffins and Gargoyle thing, is focusing on the farm. Through her research, she has found out that the farm is drugging people, and it's like you have to undergo this hazing ritual where you will feel physical and mental pain. It drugs them, steals their organs to be sold, and that's kind of their whole thing. They're an organ-selling cult. Betty tells Cheryl this, and Cheryl's like, Tony's slotted next to have her organs taken out. So they go into the farm to try and save Tony. But Kevin, Betty's former best friend, and Fangs, who Kevin is dating, Kevin restrains Betty and tries to get Edgar to lobotomize her. I'm just bringing this up so you can remember that when the rest of the show continues on, Kevin has tried to lobotomize Betty. I just want you to remember that, okay? Just keep that in mind. Oh my god, this is taking so long! So Kevin tries to forcibly help the cult lobotomize Betty. Casual stuff, never really addressed ever again. But Betty escapes, so she's fine. I mean, physically, mentally, your best friend trying to lobotomize you has to have some repercussions, right? Archie, Jughead, Veronica, and Betty get an invitation for dinner with the Gargoyle King, which is being held at the Blossom Family Manor called Thornhill. No, it's called the Blossom Hunting Lodge. Sorry, there's so many stupid named buildings. I can't remember them all. Hal and his hook hand also in attendance. Happy for him to be included. And the Gargoyle King is revealed to be, drumroll, Chick. That's right, the Gargoyle King is Betty and Jughead's half-brother's ex-boyfriend who tried to infiltrate the Cooper family by saying he was his ex-boyfriend and is just in general kind of mentally unwell. The last time we saw Chick, he was assumed to be dead because Betty led him out to the forest and then sicked the Black Hood on him, and the Black Hood ran after him to murder him. Chick has red hair now, which is why all of the Griffins and Gargoyles players assumed him to be Jason Blossom, because anybody with red hair in this town besides Archie, yeah, that's a Blossom. While he was taking off after him, Hal noticed the evil in Chick's eyes, saw him as one of his own, and decided to spare his life in return for total loyalty in his evilness. Pretty standard stuff. During their affair with the conjugal visits, in which Penelope and Hal were having sex in the conjugal trailer, I would assume, at the prison, Penelope honed Hal's evilness and was able to use it to basically start Griffins and Gargoyles again and torture the town. When Hal got locked up, Chick took over, right? So when Hal was in prison, now Chick was the one that was doing all the Gargoyle King stuff, but they were working as a team. The reason why? Because Penelope wanted to get revenge on the town of Riverdale because they allowed her to be adopted from the orphanage to basically be a child bride for her adopted brother. And points were made. I don't not agree with her. Let her do what she needs to do. So they have to play another final game of Griffins and Gargoyles, okay? Now, the first task is Archie has to fight a man dressed like a bear because he was attacked by a bear. And I'm pretty sure he kills him. It's implied. Cool. Then Veronica and Betty have to play Russian roulette with poisoned chalices, but Veronica drinks the poisoned cup for Betty because she's a girl's girl. Till the end. After that, Penelope reveals that they've all been poisoned and that the only way to get the antidote is to finish the game of Griffins and Gargoyles. Archie says that he loves Veronica, and she says it back even though she's currently with Reggie at this time. Archie also says the iconic line. He goes, "None of us dies tonight," which is not correct grammar, but I support him nonetheless. Jughead's round is he has to physically fight Chick, and they fight with their fists. Cool. Doesn't really relate to his storyline in any way, but that happens. And then Betty's task, she has to kill her dad with a gun. Like, these are not equal. Hey, Jughead, fist fight this guy you don't know. Betty, shoot your dad with a gun. Betty doesn't shoot her dad, and she goes, "I will never be like you." And then they grab the antidote, run through the forest away, and are saved. After this happens, Penelope kills Hal, and Chick is arrested. Great. Rest in peace to the man in the bear costume. Rest in peace to Hal. So now let's tie up some loose ends from season 3, that are going to be tied up in the season finale. Hiram, who is in prison, God knows, it's hard to kind of keep track of what evil thing matters. He plants evidence that also gets Hermione arrested, but she gets arrested for taking out a hit on him, which she did do, so fair's fair. Alice is revealed to be an FBI informant getting information on the cult the entire time. She was not brainwashed. She was just trying to get information on the farm. Iconic. Alice helps Cheryl break out of the farm with Juniper so both of the twins are safe. She helps Kevin get deprogrammed. They plan to take down the farm from inside because the farm is basically planning a massive death thing. You know what I mean? Like how cults sometimes, they all die. So the plan is that Evelyn is going to drive a school bus with all the members of the farm off a cliff. And Alice and Betty, because they've been trying to take down the farm, are going to be strapped to the front of that bus. While this is happening, Edgar, the head of the cult, dressed as Evel Knievel, is trying to get in the rocket ship he has been building this whole time in secret. I'm not making this up. If I was, I would be an imaginative genius. No, not made up. Just real. They escape, and then she shoots Edgar dead. Everyone is free from the farm, and Evelyn is in prison. Charles, Betty and Jughead's half-brother, who works for the FBI, was the one who got Alice set up to be an FBI informant, and now he's part of the gang. He's gonna come heavily in on season 4. And also, remember how Jason's corpse was missing? Do you remember that? When Betty exhumed Jason's corpse and couldn't find anything in the coffin? It's because Cheryl exhumed Jason's corpse for no reason, and now his dead body is just vibing in her house, and she just hangs out with her brother's dead body. That's the end of season 3. We're back for season 4 of Riverdale, all right? We have 3 main problems over there. We're gonna get to them as we go along. I'm back, I'm ready to go, and this video won't be 3 hours. I'm telling myself that so I can believe it to be true. Let's see where our 4/5, because we kind of count Cheryl, where our main characters are at the beginning of season 4. Archie has kind of returned to normalcy. He's out of juvie. The Gargoyle King is unmasked, but then, unfortunately, he gets a call that Fred, his father, was killed. They had to write Fred's death into the show because Luke Perry died. So mommy Molly Ringwald will be acting as kind of the parental figure, and then we're gonna get a father figure coming in a bit later. But Fred was killed in a hit and run. He saw a woman at the side of the road who needed help, like she had popped a tire or some shit. I don't know anything about cars. He stopped to help her, and then an out of control car hit him, killed him, and kept going. It's very, very sad. FP, who if you will recall is still the sheriff despite getting that position because he agreed to be a hitman for Hermione and agreed to murder her husband. He didn't murder her husband, but he agreed to, and that's how he got the job of sheriff. He tells Archie the name of the man who killed Fred. His name is George Augustine. And I just don't think ethically I don't think that's a good idea. Because Archie's, as we know, has formed 2 vigilante groups. Archie's been to juvie. Archie is unhinged. You don't want an enemy in Archie. You really, really don't. So Archie goes to George Augustine's house and is like, quite frankly, going to murder him. And then as he's going to do it, his son, Jeffrey, was the one who was driving. He took his dad's car without permission, had no license. So George is taking the fall for his son. Fun fact, the author who plays Jeffrey is in prison now because he murdered his mother. What? So now, because the town of Riverdale continuously basically gets turned into a crime-riddled drug city by Hiram Lodge, Archie is turning his boxing gym that he owns. How did he come to own a boxing gym at the ripe age of 16? Well, Hiram owns it, and as an apology for trying to murder him and send him to jail, Hiram was the one who printed those Kill the Red Paladin cards, basically sicking every single player of Griffins and Gargoyles on Archie. As an apology for that, he gives him this boxing gym. And Archie is going to turn this boxing gym into a community center for kids. Veronica, we're finally getting my girly right here some plot. Let her do her thing. Let her have a plot. That's my hashtag get Veronica a plot in Riverdale 2024. Hashtag I know the show's over, but still. Veronica's parents are both in jail on account of various crimes. Hiram trying to take down Riverdale and Hermione taking out a hit on Hiram. I guess because her parents are kind of like New York famous and her dad got in trouble for embezzling money. The paparazzi is swarming Veronica at school now because her parents are in jail. So she holds a press conference at La Bonne Nuit, her child speakeasy, where she sings all that jazz to the press. And I guess that's enough of an answer for that. Because if I was a journalist there, I'd be like, right, but what am I filing? Because I have to file my story today at 5. And so far, all I've seen is a 16-year-old girl sing the opening number from Chicago the Musical in her child's speakeasy. Actually, that's the story of the fucking century, front page news right there. She's basically disowned her family on account of their crimes and is now going by Veronica Luna. It's a very stupid plotline. I love it dearly. And Hiram, at the end of the first episode, is now just out of jail. I guess he just walked out of the prison he owns, right? Because he's probably just in his prison. And when I'm gonna leave now. And the guards were like, oh, sure thing, boss. Okay. Also, it's worth noting that Archie's kind of whole thing this entire season, he's doing vigilante justice again, as Archie does. Couple of things about Archie. He loves singing, he loves football, he loves boxing, he's addicted to vigilante justice. So he's going up against Dodger Dickinson's. He's a little square because I don't really care about him and he's not that important. I just want you to know that the big bad guy who Archie is going against is called Dodger Dickinson. He's a walking, talking Charles Dickens reference. I'll never recover from this show. What's going on with Cheryl is she is living with Nana Rose, my queen, the best character on this fucking show. Honestly, who do I have to talk to? Check in with me in how old would she have to be? 50 years. And let me play an old woman with a little cataract contact lens in my eye on television. That's all I want from a career, to just be kind of a weird old woman on a TV show who has the sight. So she's living with her grandma, Nana Rose, and they are taking care of the twins, Juniper and Dagwood. Also, she has exhumed her brother Jason's corpse, and he's just kind of vibing in the house. He's just sitting in a chair looking disgusting. I am not gonna put a picture of this body up on the screen because you will click off and report me, and rightfully so. But Google it if you want, because the art department of Riverdale in season 4 is clocking motherfucking in, and it is the grossest thing I've ever seen. Tony, Cheryl's girlfriend, kind of gives Cheryl an ultimatum and is like, hey, I don't really want to hang around your house. when your brother's dead body's there? Why don't we bury him? And she's a better girlfriend than I'd be. I would just be like, absolutely not. I can't fix you. There's too much going on here. So they rebury Jason, and after they rebury Jason's body, a creepy doll, kind of a Victorian porcelain doll, starts creepily moving around the house like that movie The Boy. I don't know if you remember the movie The Boy. Maybe I was the only person in the world that saw the movie The Boy, but it's literally just a little creepy dolls moving around the house. And there's a little creepy doll moving around this house. Nana Rose takes one look at this creepy doll and busts out the Ouija board because she is that bitch, because she is my hero. And they start talking on the Ouija board, and the Ouija board says that like the doll's name starts with a J, but it's not Jason. So Nana Rose goes, oh, it's probably the Blossom triplet who died in the womb because your brother and you absorbed him, and his name is Julian. Obviously, the logical conclusion to this is that this doll is the spirit of your dead twin, Julian. That's the only answer that I can possibly think is true. So Tony kind of has to make a choice here, because she doesn't want the creepy doll in the house, but she also definitely doesn't want Jason's exhumed body in the house. But she goes, I guess, because the doll is creepier, if we like bury the doll and put it away, then you can have your brother's corpse in the house. What a hard honestly, it's the hardest decision I would ever have to make in my life. They bury the doll, and the doll comes back in the house because the doll's haunted, bitch. What's going on in Jughead's world? Jughead gets a dark academia secret history plotline this season, and it's awesome. He enters a writing contest. His writing sample draws the attention of, where is he? Mr. Chipping, kind of tucked behind my little shoulder here. And he is the English teacher at Stonewall Prep, which is a private boarding school, I guess, right outside the town of Riverdale. So Jughead gets offered a full ride scholarship to Stonewall Prep because of his writing sample. He also finds out that his grandfather, the original Forsyth Pendleton Jones, that's his name, by the way. The grandfather's name is Forsyth Pendleton Jones. He named his son Forsyth Pendleton Jones II, FP, and FP named his son Forsyth Pendleton Jones III. What the fuck? So Jughead goes to Stonewall. It's worth noting that this entire season, because it's a secret history plotline, every single episode kind of has like a little thing that, it's like a little cut scene of a future episode that's basically being like, Jughead's dead! Somebody killed Jughead! It looks like Betty and Archie and Veronica killed Jughead. And you know it's like not true, but something fishy is afoot. So Jughead moves into his dorm at Stonewall, and who is his roommate? Moose, baby. Remember how Moose had to move last season because his father did homophobic hate crime? Well, he's now attending Stonewall Prep, baby, and he is roommates with Jughead. The reunion of the century. Their other roommate is this smarmy rich kid right here. This is kind of the Stonewall area of the map. And his name is, and I wish I was fucking kidding, Brett Weston Wallace. Not Bret Easton Ellis, the writer who attended the same university as Donna Tartt. What was that university called? Like Bendleton's or something. There's like a weird liberal arts university that they all attended. So not Bret Easton Ellis, but Brett Weston Wallace, and he's an asshole. Also, a Stonewall Prep classmate of theirs and Moose's girlfriend is Donna Sweet. Not Donna Tartt, Donna Sweet. There are two other students in this group, Joan and Jonathan. They're more like henchmen roles. They're kind of supporting cast to Brett and Donna. They kind of do all of the actual muscle work. Now, Betty, what's going on with Betty? Is she gonna get like a break this season? My girl Betty gets to kick back, relax? Absolutely not. A VHS is found on the front stoop, the porch. You know what I mean. Doorstep is what it's called, of the Cooper house. In the Cooper house right now, Alice and FP are back together again, living there with Betty and Jelly Bean. Okay? That's the family. Presumably Hot Dog is also there. A VHS is found on the front doorstep of the Cooper's house, and it is just like 13 hours of uninterrupted footage of just filming the front of the Cooper's house. Creepy as They're trying to figure out who's done this because a couple more VHSs of the same thing, but like of different houses, have appeared on different doorsteps all across Riverdale. This mystery is called the auteur. That's one of the big mysteries we have to deal with in this season. Who is the auteur? Who is leaving all of these weird VHSs on the doorsteps of Riverdale members. Also, Betty's whole thing this season is there's like FBI juniors for kids. The FBI field office is running like FBI for kids summer camp run by her half-brother and her boyfriend's half-brother, Charles, and she's just in the FBI summer camp. She's got this whole thing, again, Dark Betty, where she's like worried she has the serial killer gene from her dad. While she's at the FBI training camp, she finds out that she has a secret ability where she can look at someone and tell if they're a serial killer. This is never addressed again, but she can look at somebody and tell if they're a serial killer just by looking at them. Love profiling. She's criminal. This is Miss Criminal Minds right there. She also unearths a repressed memory in which her cat Caramel got hit by a car but wasn't dead, and her father, Hal, the Black Hood, forced her to murder it. He gave Betty's like, use this big rock and murder your cat, so Caramel's dead. Rest in peace, Caramel. And she thinks that the murder of Caramel the cat is how Dark Betty was born. Imagine explaining that sentence to a Victorian child. You simply could not. Also, there's a new principal called Mr. Honey up here. He's actually not bald, which is why it took me a while to figure out if Riverdale thought he was evil or not. But he's a mean principal with a full head of hair, and he's cracking the whip at Riverdale High. He's going, this year is going to be the first year with no murders at Riverdale High. They should get a big poster that says, days since a student was murdered. That's Mr. Honey's goal. He's mean. That's his whole thing. Also, Monroe, aka Mad Dog, Archie's cellmate in juvie, is now attending Riverdale High, and he goes by Monroe. Love this redemption arc. He's getting his degree! Woo! He's on the football team alongside Reggie and Archie. Reggie, just my love. He's really good at football because, again, he's just a human mass of muscle. While they're playing a football game, Reggie's dad is watching and is like screaming at Reggie for not being as good as Monroe at football, and Reggie comes to school the next day with a black eye. I want you to remember this because there's a massive redemption arc for Reggie's abusive dad later. And we as a culture, as a society, are not accepting this. You can't just punch your son. That's just, no, not allowed. Reggie is getting abused by his dad. Archie decides to help Reggie by giving Reggie a massive baseball bat and them totaling Reggie's dad's car with it. Iconic. Love it. Now that's male friendship, and we love to see it. While Jughead is at Stonewall, he's still on his PI detective bullshit because him and Betty are nothing if not solving a crime. And he unearths the mystery of the Stonewall Four, where basically every couple of years, Stonewall students go missing without a trace. He brings this up to Mr. Chipping, who is like a nice teacher. He's got English teacher vibes. You know, you're like, I'm gonna eat my lunch in this English teacher's class. And Mr. Chipping says that it's actually like the students just dropped out or transferred. They didn't die. They didn't go disappear. It's just a rumor. The rest of the students, Donna and Brett, haze Jughead because he's a new member of Stonewall Prep by drugging him and locking him in a coffin. And once Jughead gets out and Mr. Chipping's like, it means they accept you. Veto on that. He goes back to his dorm and finds that Moose has disappeared without a trace. Everyone's like, what do you mean? Moose joined the army. You're being crazy. Moose joined the army. But Moose is disappearing, okay? Another thing Jughead finds out is that Mr. Chipping is actually Franklin P. Paxton, who is the writer of the Baxter Brother books. These are basically Riverdale's version of like the Hardy Boys. And at Stonewall, every couple of years, a new author takes over the Baxter Brothers like authorship, and they assume the role of Franklin P. Paxton and write the Baxter Brother books. And it's always a Stonewall Prep student. I hope I'm making sense. Jughead also meets Mr. DuPont, who is the original Franklin P. Paxton, who wrote the first Baxter Brother books, and knew Jughead's grandfather. That's him. He's bald, so you know he's gonna get up to some shit. And it's announced that they're going to have a Baxter Brothers competition where each student in the English class at this school has to write a manuscript for their pitch of a Baxter Brothers novel, and whoever wins becomes the next Franklin P. Paxton. Hermione's now also out of jail. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it. We don't need to explain that. And Hiram, mad that his daughter burnt down his drug lab and his wife tried to put a hit out on him and got him shot in the chest, has his daughter, Veronica's half-sister, Hermosa, move in from Miami to help the team out. She's a private eye, and she's like kind of evil, but not really. That's all you need to know about Hermosa. Hermione and Hiram, of course, are not together. They got a divorce regarding the big, you know, when you call a hit on your husband, he has an affair on you, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so she begins working at Le Bon Nuit as a waitress and at Pops to kind of make her way in the world. But then Hiram and Hermione have sex. He chokes her a lot. This show is so horny. It's like in the middle of a Hardy Boys contest for writing. All of a sudden, Mark Consuelos is like choking a woman and having sex with him, and I guess the sex is so good they get back together, and Veronica is floored by this. It's not a consistent, you know, childhood, because she's canonically like 16, you know what I mean? I get it. Hiram has Le Bon Nuit's liquor license revoked. Fair enough. It's a child speakeasy. Archie is still doing like vigilante justice. He tries to stop a purse snatching and gets pepper sprayed through the eyes of his balaclava that he's wearing. Like a ski mask. It's a whole thing. It's not interesting, but it is his storyline, okay? He finds out that all of the other local businesses, because although he's 16, he is a local business owner. He finds out that they have all been paying off Dodger so that his gang, which is made up of all children, by the way. He has a child gang of child criminals. The local businesses pay Dodger off so that his child criminals don't like attack them. So Archie puts on his balaclava again and threatens Dodger, and he's like using a really like a Batman voice kind of. He's like, guess what? This is a declaration of war, Dodger. Insane. So he's still fighting with Dodger, who cares? Betty thinks that Charles is a serial killer because Betty is talking to her brother Charles and she's like, I'm just so worried that I inherited the serial killer gene. And then Charles says, oh, I inherited the serial killer gene, but that's why I joined the FBI so I could keep it in check. Now this is an interesting either plot hole or kind of, I don't know. Because Betty always assumed that she inherited the serial killer gene from her father, Hal, who's the Black Hood. But Charles isn't related to Hal. Charles' father is FP. So if Charles inherited the serial killer gene, that means that both of them presumably inherited the serial killer gene from Alice. Maybe I'm thinking too deep about this Riverdale plotline, but it's interesting. So she talks to Chick, Charles's ex-boyfriend who's in prison, and Chick says that Charles murdered somebody because of Jingle Jangle. Charles hops on the polygraph lie detector test and says that that didn't happen. He says that he used to be addicted to drugs, but now he's not, and he didn't kill anyone. So Betty accepts this, and then later Charles goes and visits Chick in prison, and is like, guess what, baby? I love you, and the plan worked. So Chick is an insane name. Chick and Charles are in cahoots in some way or another, okay? Remember that. Jughead thinks that the original writer of the first Baxter Brothers book is not Mr. DuPont, but in fact his grandfather, because he's done some level of literary forensics, and the first Baxter Brother novel is like grammatically and like written different than the other Baxter Brother novels written by Mr. DuPont. So he tells Mr. Chipping his theory, and Mr. Chipping is like, oh, interesting. And then the next day in class, Mr. Chipping comes into class drunk and just goes, I'm sorry, Jughead. I couldn't help you, and then launches himself out the window and kills himself. Rest in peace, Mr. Chipping. Gone but not forgotten. The next day, DuPont tells Jughead that Chipping killed himself because he's an alcoholic, which doesn't really make sense, but whatever. And while looking through old yearbook photos, because now Jughead's on the case, he sees that both Chipping and DuPont were a part of a secret Stonewall society called the Quill and Skull. Jughead also sneaks into Donna's dorm room and starts rifling through her stuff. He finds Mr. Chipping's Quill and Skull pin, like a little brooch pin, in with all her stuff, and accuses her of doing something evil and getting him to kill himself. Donna says that her and Chipping were dating, Pretty Little Liars core. Nothing a teen show loves more than to have an adult teacher date a student. She tried to break it off with him, and he got violent with her, and that when she said she would go to the school board, that's why he killed himself. Yikes. After this, hearing this horrifying story, Jughead and Betty go back to Jughead's room and have sex in front of a camera that they don't know is there. They're having sex in his dorm room and there's a secret camera recording them. Okay, that's gonna come back later. So put that in the old noggin. Meanwhile, Queen Cheryl. Cheryl is basically the executor of the Blossom family estate now. So her Aunt Cricket and Uncle Bedford arrive and are trying to get Cheryl to sell off the maple groves for money. She says no, and her aunt and uncle are like, well, we're evil, so we're just gonna tell the lawyers that you've had a psychotic break and get you declared insane so you can't be the executor of the estate anymore. This is evil. Quick reminder, Cheryl fully has her brother's exhumed corpse vibing in the house. So she's not mentally doing great. Uncle Bedford discovers Jason's dead body and starts choking Cheryl. Tony body slams him and kills him. They try to hide his body, and they're worried that Aunt Cricket is going to find out that they murdered her husband and that also Jason's dead body is hanging around the mansion. So Cheryl hatches a plan in which she invites Aunt Cricket and her cousin Fester and Nana Rose, and they all have a Thanksgiving dinner where she serves everybody a meat pie made out of the remains of Uncle Bedford unknowingly. And she says, you're gonna leave and you're not gonna tell anyone that I have Jason's dead body in this house or that I murdered Uncle Bedford, because if you do, I'm gonna tell them that you ate his body. As if unknowingly being served human remains is a crime. They didn't know, but they accept this, they leave. Jughead wins the Baxter Brother contest, and he has to create now a new pitch and a manuscript for his Baxter Brothers novel. He then talks to Charles and wants to enlist him to help track down their mutual grandfather, remember, because he wants to figure out if his grandfather really did write the first Baxter Brothers novel. He finds his grandfather living off the grid in the woods, and his grandfather confirms that he wrote the first Baxter Brothers novel, and he sold it to DuPont for $5,000, which is like egregious considering that it's now like a multi-million-dollar book series. And because it went on to be successful and he got no credit, he says, that's why I become an alcoholic, and that's why I abused FP and was absent in FP's life. You can decide if you accept that as enough of a reason to be abusive. Let me know in the comments if you agree with that, okay? Meanwhile, at the Cooper house, Betty is getting ready for dinner with her mom. Polly is in like a different kind of mental health hospital being cult deprogrammed, so she's not around. Her mom gets a call. She like picks it up, immediately puts it down, and then tries to stab Betty with a kitchen knife. And until Betty snaps her fingers, her mom is in like a fugue state, trying to kill her. And then Betty snaps her fingers and she snaps out of it. She talks to Charles about this. Charles traces the call to Shankshaw Prison. The new prison's name is Shankshaw Prison. I love this show. It's the best show on television. And that's where Evelyn Evernever, wife/daughter of Chad Michael Murray, the cult leader, is in custody. And she says that she hypnotized Alice. And whenever she says tangerine, 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 Alice is going to try and kill Betty. And she also said that she's hypnotized Betty, and she has a trigger word that will make Betty go into a murderous fugue state. It's a big yikes. You know, Betty's trying to get into university, and she's also finding out a lot of information. Betty will never catch a break on this show. Cheryl goes to school and talks to, right over here, the guidance counselor, Mrs. Burble. And she's like, life's hard at home. I murdered my uncle, and there's a doll who's the spirit of my dead triplet who I absorbed in the womb, terrorizing the house. And Miss Burble's like, well, that's not real. That didn't happen. So somebody's trying to mess with you. Can you think of anybody's trying to mess with you? So Cheryl hatches a plan. She goes home and Romeo and Juliet style takes enough cyanide to fake her own death, but not actually die. And when she takes enough cyanide and passes out, Penelope tumbles out of the walls where she's been living because she escaped custody and brings Cheryl back to life. She's been the one that's been moving this doll around pretending to be Julian because she's jealous that Cheryl gets to be with Jason's corpse. What the fuck? Because of this mess, Cheryl is finally ready to let go of her brother, so she gets the whole gang together and they hold a Viking funeral for Jason. They put him on a little raft and they shoot an on-fire arrow and catch him on fire, and he has a Viking funeral. And that's the end of that storyline. It's time for college admissions. Brett and Jughead both got into Yale. Veronica got into Harvard, but she found out that her father pulled strings to get her in, so she's mad about that. And Betty got waitlisted at Yale, which is absolutely insane if you think about it, because in America, you have to write like college essays, basically mining your own trauma to get into university. And Betty, if you wrote your college essay about your serial killer father, you're telling me you wouldn't get a full ride to Yale? Think, girl. Jughead is joining the Quill and Skull, the secret society, in order to figure out like what's going on with the Stonewall Four, what's the mystery mystery that needs to be unraveled at Stonewall Prep, but he hasn't told Betty. He did, however, as a hazing, he had to admit to his deepest, darkest secret on VHS. We haven't seen that yet, but that's what he had to do. Uncle Frank, Archie's new father figure, comes to town. He's Archie's uncle. And as soon as he comes in, he starts staying with the family, and then a man bursts in and tries to murder him. And Archie stops the guy and then is like, hey, Uncle Frank, why is there a man trying to murder you? And Uncle Frank's like, right, I used to be a hitman, but I left that life behind. But I'm sure that all the other hitmen are trying to, like, clean up the loose ends by murdering me. Awkward. Also, Moose is alive. He really did join the army because Mr. Chipping got him to join the army. Okay? What's going on there? Veronica goes to New York after finding out that her father pulled strings to get her into Harvard and hangs out with Katie Keene. Katie Keene is like a Riverdale spinoff starring Lucy Hale, aka Aria Montgomery from Pretty Little Liars. And while in New York, Veronica decides that she wants to go to Barnard instead, and she's a Barnard girly. Okay? Just want you to know. Also, and I wish I was joking, there's an entire storyline where Hiram has MS. They don't say the words MS, but he's got MS-like symptoms. He's got tremors and he cannot walk anymore. How does this get fixed, you might ask? Well, he starts working out at Archie's boxing gym, and Archie creates a workout plan and regimen so good it cures Hiram's MS. Like, I'm sorry, this show is so chaotic. It's so good. Imagine you're watching a show and you're like, oh, what's the dark academia mystery? But also this man's MS just got cured by a boxing gym. This is the best show on television. You need to strap in for this. From the first part, seasons 1 and 2, Veronica's old friend, where is he? Nick St. James comes to town. Nick is a smarmy rich asshole who tried to rape Cheryl and like drug her last season. He got the beat out of him by Josie and the Pussycats while they were singing Out Tonight. They just absolutely clobbered him with their bare fists while they were singing Out Tonight from Rent, and it's an iconic moment in television history. He comes back into town to brag to Veronica that he got into Harvard, which, like, get a life. And Cheryl has told Tony about what's happened with Nick and that he's like a full, basically, criminal. So Tony drugs Nick, brings him to a hotel in which he is forcibly restrained and is tickled by Fangs and Kevin while being filmed because Fangs and Kevin have joined an erotic tickling website to make money. Makes sense. They have an erotic tickling website. I don't know. Just keep up, okay? Betty breaks into Stonewall with the help of Jughead to try and figure out what secrets the Quill and Skull might be hiding. She finds in a secret compartment a bunch of VHS tapes, all of them containing the secret confessions of members of the Quill and Skull. She finds Jughead's, and Jughead's is that when he was living on Riverdale's Skid Row among people who were experiencing homelessness, there was a man named Doc, okay? He basically was helping Jughead find shelter, get food, and was mentoring Jughead and keeping him safe. One day, Jughead saw Doc getting jumped, thought he might be getting killed, but was too scared to do anything, and he's racked with guilt. Good God, what a trauma to reveal about Jughead in the midst of season 4. Can you believe it? Donna's secret confession is the exact confession she gave about her inappropriate, predatory relationship with Mr. Chipping, but it's with a different teacher. So in the universe of Riverdale, this doesn't mean that Donna is traumatized from that relationship and kind of operating in some way of like kind of lying. It just means she's lying across the board and it never happened, okay? Because Mr. DuPont, fully evil now, and he basically tells Yale that Jughead has been plagiarizing, and unless Jughead can turn in an entirely new Baxter Brothers manuscript by the end of the week, his Baxter Brothers contract will be terminated and he'll be kicked out of Yale and he'll be kicked out of Stonewall. Imagine picking a fight with a 16-year-old boy. I love that. While they're peeking around, Jughead and Betty in DuPont's office to try and find proof that he didn't plagiarize, Jughead finds out that the rest of his classmates ghost wrote his old manuscript so that they'll get credit. Does that make sense? So they took his old manuscript and ghost wrote the entire novel as a class. So something fishy is happening. Betty proves Jughead's innocence in the Yale plagiarizing scandal by administering a lie detector test, which she learned to administer at the FBI for Kids program she's enrolled in. Okay? Jughead is going to turn all of his classmates in for stealing his manuscript and all of that stuff. And Brett says, you have to drop out of school and not do that, or I'm going to leak this sex tape that I illegally filmed of you and Betty. Remember when Betty and Jughead had sex in his dorm room moments after hearing Donna's tearful confession about being sexually abused? They were being filmed. That was Brett, and he was using it to extort and blackmail them. Wanting to protect Betty, Jughead drops out. But even though he drops out, him, Archie, Veronica, and Betty all attend Stonewall's famous Ides of March party, which is basically a weird kind of Greek-themed party in a field where everyone drinks in March. It looks like a lot of fun, and I wish it was a real thing that I could attend. Here's a couple of things that happen. I gotta just read this as a list because I want to make sure I get this right. Archie and Veronica show up and immediately go to the woods to have sex. Jughead and Brett go into the woods to have a conversation. And Donna and Betty go into the woods, and Donna tells Betty that she visited Evelyn in prison, and Evelyn told her the trigger word that will trigger Betty's fugue murderous state. Then we cut to black, and the next scene is Archie and Veronica walking over and standing over Jughead's bloodied body with a rock. That's right. The third mystery of season 4 is who killed Jughead in a secret history-esque murder plot. So Jughead's been missing. FP interviews Brett and Donna because they are his friends at Stonewall, and they say that they saw Betty and Jughead walking into the woods together, and that was the last time Jughead was seen alive. Also, FP tracks Jughead's phone, which is in the pocket of Betty's jacket. Betty girl, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, I'm just holding it for him. You know how you just hold someone's phone for them and then they go missing? Betty places a bug in Brett's room to see if they can get him to admit that he was the one who killed Jughead. But Archie can't wait, and he goes into Brett's room and starts beating him up, saying, you killed Jughead! You killed Jughead! Which makes him look immediately so guilty, because Jughead at this point, in the eyes of the law, is just missing. And then Brett calls him Elmo in what is the most absolutely violent takedown of the century, and Archie leaves. FP, as the sheriff investigating his own son's disappearance, gets a lead that a couple of hikers found a bloodied rock in the forest. Charles and the FBI offer to test the rock for blood. He removes the rock and lets Betty instead replace it with a rock from the Cooper's garden painted with Halloween blood, like fake blood. What the This show is insane. She then tells Archie, Veronica, and Charles that she's afraid she entered a fugue state and killed Jughead. And they're like, oh, you had a fugue state this whole time and you didn't tell us? So Charles hypnotizes Betty to get her to remember what happened that night. And all she remembers is Donna blowing a bunch of white powder in her face. From this description alone, Charles goes, oh, that's devil's breath. It's a drug that would have made you disoriented and lose your memory so you couldn't have killed Jughead. And that's enough evidence for them to go on. They're like, Betty, you told us about your fugue state not 5 seconds ago, but we're ready to accept this as the truth. Then Betty meets Donna in the woods to be like, I know that you killed Jughead and you're trying to frame me, bitch. And Donna says that the gang must have hidden Jughead's body because if Jughead's body was found by now, then all evidence would point to them being the ones who murdered him, specifically Betty. And Betty goes, oh, you want to bet? Then she calls a massive search party in the woods to find Jughead's body. They find Jughead's body and it gets loaded into the morgue truck. Brett and Donna just open the morgue truck's doors, which you're not allowed to do. That's a crazy course of action, and see Jughead's dead body. So Jughead is dead. Afterwards, Betty and Donna meet in the woods again, and she gives the speech that you've surely seen online a bunch, where she goes, I'm sorry, Donna. I'm the ultimate wild card. I am the daughter of the Black Hood, the nightmare next door. I'm training with the FBI and I'm coming for you, you psycho bitch. Like, how many times did you rehearse that in your mirror at home before you said that? I love it. The next day, Betty gets a call from Yale saying she got off the wait list because somebody died. Her boyfriend died, and she gets his spot at Yale, which is insane. Then there's a whole episode that's basically Alice, because Alice is like a journalist making a true crime documentary about the murder of her husband's son. Insane. She's interviewing FP and she goes, do you suspect there was foul play? And it's my favorite quote because, babe, he was found with a bloodied, blunt force trauma head wound to the head. Surely there's foul play. He got hit in the head. FP is doing research. He finds Jughead's pin in Donna's room, and she says that he threw it at them after dropping out. But she also says that Betty has been threatening them to keep quiet about how she was standing over Jughead's body with a rock. So FP arrests Archie, Veronica, and Betty, and they all get released from custody once that prop rock with the fake blood gets tested by the FBI and it's fake blood. Hiram, in a moment of insane clarity, says, hey FP, maybe you shouldn't be the one that's investigating your son's murder. And FP's like, fine, I quit then. He quits being the sheriff. So now Kevin's dad, Sheriff Keller, is the sheriff again. Donna hears that the rock with the blood was found to be inconclusive, and this really freaks her out because she was the one that smeared Jughead's blood on the rock. So she knows something fishy is going on. So with this information alone, she suspects that Jughead has faked his own death. At the wake for Jughead that Betty is throwing, Donna and Brett show up and act insane. They're like talking to Jughead's sister, who thinks he's dead, and being like, do you think he faked his death? Do you think your dead brother faked his death? Brett lunges at the coffin and tries to open it. And they just in general act like absolute, you cannot act this way. While this is happening, Betty and Archie kiss in the music room at school. But Archie's with Veronica and Betty was with Jughead until he died. Cheryl sees this, exposes them, and Veronica has a massive blowout fight with Betty and Archie publicly in the school hallway. And it's very overacted, and you're like, okay, the game is afoot, you know what I mean? Somebody call Sherlock Holmes. Something's happening here. So Donna starts just tailing Betty 24/7, and she trails her to the teen sex bunker where she's having sex with Archie. They spot her and chew her out and are like, please leave. But then Donna goes to Brett and goes, no, I know that Jughead faked his own death because when I went to the teen sex bunker, Betty got 3 milkshakes from Pops and only her and Archie were in the bunker, and that's 2 of them. And Brett is like, calm down, don't worry. And then he says out loud, we definitely killed Jughead, which if you recall, Betty has bugged his room at this point. And then Donna freaks out and she goes, don't make me kill you, Brett, like I killed Jonathan. So our boy Jonathan here is dead. He didn't have that much impact on the plot, but he will be missed nonetheless. Then we cut back to the teen sex bunker and we see Jughead and Betty having sex, and it was all a ploy to make it seem like Archie and Betty killed Jughead or something to make it so they could be together. But Jughead's alive! We kind of knew this. They're not going to kill off Cole Sprouse in season 4. So the next day at school, Jughead bursts into the English class and is like, I'm alive, bitch! And I want you to imagine if you were just a regular ass student in this school. You're not plotting the murder plot, you're just trying to get into a good university, and the student you think is dead bursts into your classroom and accuses the other 2 students of trying to kill him and framing his girlfriend for his murder. Imagine that. Jughead has figured out the mystery of the Stonewall 4. And that is that every single time a new Baxter Brothers contract is signed and a new author of the Baxter Brothers is chosen, students go missing. And this is because in order to prove that you can write the perfect mystery and get the job, you have to commit the perfect murder. This makes sense and is regular. So Moose was supposed to be the new target, but Mr. Chipping told him to join the army so he wouldn't get murdered, so Moose left. However, this made Jughead the next target, and Mr. Chipping was so racked with guilt that he jumped out the window. So Brett led Jughead into the woods, and Joan hit him with a rock, and Jonathan was supposed to check Jughead's pulse and make sure he was dead, but he couldn't do it. And this is why Donna eventually killed Jonathan, because he had a conscience. Meanwhile, Donna was blowing cocaine into Betty's face and mouth and eyes so she could frame Betty for being the murderer. When the gang found Jughead's body after Archie and Veronica had sex in the woods, they do CPR and resuscitate him, and Betty calls Charles and he brings the FBI's medical van, and they keep Jughead alive. These murders have been happening since the very beginning of the Baxter Brothers contract and the Quillen Skull, and they started happening because Mr. DuPont's classmates knew that he bought the first Baxter Brothers mystery story from Jughead's grandfather. So he had to murder everyone who knew. This is why Jughead's grandfather went off the grid, because he knew that DuPont was trying to kill him. Doesn't really explain the alcoholism and the abuse, but here we are. The reason Jughead was offered a scholarship to Stonewall Prep was to lure his grandfather out of hiding so DuPont could kill him. Once they say that this has happened, DuPont launches himself out a window and kills himself. Also, the students who are still alive who tried to murder Jughead are Donna, Brett, and Joan. Brett goes to prison after Jughead beats him up with brass knuckles. It's crazy. Joan's parents are diplomats, so she has diplomatic immunity. And Donna is able to take over the Tracy True book series, which is basically Nancy Drew, because her family is influential. Betty does some research on this and finds out that Donna's grandmother was one of the first students that DuPont killed, and she is actually the creator of the Tracy True character, and he stole Tracy True from her. She came to Stonewall to avenge her grandmother's murder, and by writing the Tracy True books, she's sufficiently avenged her grandmother's murder. Betty threatens to expose all of this to the press unless Donna doesn't like revokes her contract. And this sucks. Like, I mean, obviously Donna's evil, but like I want her to write the Nancy Drew of Riverdale universe. I want to read that book. Now it's time for the musical episode. This episode is Hedwig and the Angry Inch. It's one of my least favorite because I love Hedwig, and it's like a subversive musical about like queer love and accepting yourself, and also like research the musical. It's a very good musical, and there's just like lots of amazing like themes of like gender and sexuality, and then they just have like the straight characters singing the songs, and they don't ever engage with like the actual subject matter of Hedwig. And I know that they can't because it's like the CW, but it's like the titular Angry Inch is like that Hedwig was mutilated as a child and therefore has a has small genitalia basically, and they don't talk about that, and then it's like that's the musical, you know what I mean? Kevin wants to run the school's variety show, even though every single time he runs a musical either the cult takes over or somebody gets murdered. He wants to sing in the school's variety show a song from Hedwig and the Angry Inch, and Mr. Honey, evil principal, says no because the show isn't appropriate because he's a homophobe. And instead, Kevin should sing a song from Carousel, a musical about alcoholism and abuse. Love. Kevin stages a protest in the form of a performance and gets banned from the variety show. Archie signs up him and all of his friends to perform in a band without their consent, and the band's name is the Archies. Imagine your friend did this to you. This is absolutely insane behavior. If I was like to my friends, hey, I signed us up for the talent show as a band. Sorry I didn't tell you and I didn't get your consent. Also, the band's name is the Carleys. You can't act that way. Because Kevin gets banned from the variety show, every single member of the student body dresses up in Hedwig drag and forms a protest, so the variety show is canceled, and Veronica decides to host the new variety show at Le Bon Nuit. Meanwhile, Jughead is trying to uncover who the voyeur is, or the auteur, because that's still a plot point that's still happening. He's back at Riverdale High. Him and Betty are arguing because he's not going to graduate on time, and he's dedicating all of his time to figure out who this auteur VHS person is. I love it. So they have the variety show at Le Bon Nuit. This is that clip that you've also probably seen around where everybody's singing and they go like, here's to Archie and Betty and Jughead. Wild. Jughead is watching hours and hours of the VHS footage that the auteur has left around, and he comes across a video of somebody wearing a Jughead mask, a mask of his face, but it's like the comic book style, like in the original Archie comics, it's like a mask of the comic book version of Jughead. That version is getting like beat in the head with a rock by somebody wearing a comic book version of Betty mask. And I mentioned the art department on Riverdale earlier. They are clocked in. If you are part of the art department in season 4 on Riverdale and you are watching, A+ job, amazing. The art direction of like the masks and every single kind of image surrounding the auteur is genuinely incredibly scary. Maybe it's just something about masks, but it's like they're wearing like cartoon masks and murdering each other. Terrifying. Meanwhile, while Jughead is trying to uncover a mystery, Betty and Archie have a meeting where they talk about how that fake kiss they had when they were trying to stage Jughead's murder, whatever, they felt sparks and they like each other, and they are in the teen sex bunker and are like, we're not gonna have sex, but at least we can hold hands because we love our partners, but we have feelings for each other. Gross. Archie also writes Betty a song and sings it to her, okay? Remember this, it's gonna come back in later in a bad way. Charles and Jughead go to the Blue Velvet video store because they figure that the auteur is a fan of movies. This is basically like a VHS video store, like what a Blockbuster was. I love that it's called the Blue Velvet video store. What is the overlap between David Lynch fans and Riverdale viewers? I want the statistics of that on my desk tomorrow at 8 a.m. sharp, okay? The guy who works at the video store at Blue Velvet, his name is David Lynch. Oh, he's like not connected to anybody all the way over here, okay? He's creepy as fuck. And he gives them the customer records. And they see that Ethel has rented Friday the 13th 16 times, so now she is the prime suspect in this case. That is McCarthyism at its finest. If renting Friday the 13th 16 times is wrong, I don't want to be right. She's got a right. She can do what she pleases, okay? So Charles goes to Ethel's house and searches her belongings and finds a videotape, and on the videotape is the sex tape that Brett unknowingly filmed of Betty and Jughead in their dorm room. It's called Ponytail Playmate. Disgusting. gross, ew. Ethel says she didn't watch it. Okay, sure, girl. But she found it in the secret X-rated video section of the Blue Velvet video store called the Scarlet Suite. And once she recognized that it was Betty and Jughead, she didn't watch any more of it, and she's just keeping it so nobody else sees it. So the FBI raid the Scarlet Suite, and they also find the snuff film of Clifford Blossom, Cheryl's dad, killing Jason Blossom. Meanwhile, we're back to that erotic tickling storyline, okay? So Fangs and Kevin, you might remember Kevin from trying to forcibly lobotomize Betty last season. They are doing erotic tickling videos online to make money. Their tickling pimp's name is Terry. I can't believe I have said the word tickling pimp twice on my channel now. Reggie finds out that they're doing erotic tickling because he walks in on them at Pops just counting enormous stacks of dollar bills. And Reggie says they should create their own website, cut out their tickling pimp, and create their own, just get all the profits. So they agree. Reggie recruits all of the vixens and the bulldogs, and they make an erotic tickling video. Terry finds out about this and threatens to break Kevin's finger so he can tickle no more, but Reggie and the bulldogs threaten to murder him, so he leaves town. But the next day, Mr. Honey, evil principal, calls them all into the office. I should also mention why they have a new principal. It's because Principal Featherhead joined the cult last season and he's being cult deprogrammed. He found online, because a parent sent it to him, sure babe, the erotic tickling videos the students are making in full football uniform of the school and cheerleading uniform of the school. It's like an erotic tickling video basically sponsored by Riverdale High. And he says they have to take it down because it's a copyright issue. Great. Then the next scene, we see Mr. Honey going to the Blue Velvet video store, and David's like, sorry, the Scarlet Suite is closed. And he's like, damn it! So he's a pervert. He's got a addiction. Cheryl receives a VHS from the auteur that is a restaging of her brother's death. So it's somebody wearing like a Clifford Blossom mask and fake shooting somebody wearing a Jason Blossom mask. So the auteur, they're picking up speed. Now it's time for the season finale, okay? This came earlier because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So in the next season, which I will do at the beginning of the next video, is the last 2 episodes of this season, and then they time jump 6 years, I think. So Jughead has been accepted into the Iowa Writers Workshop, famously a master's program, doesn't matter. But the Dean of Admissions calls him, called Dina Lunham. Not Lena Dunham, Dina Lunham, and says we need 1 more writing sample to secure your spot. And because Jughead is a dumb high schooler, he only has 1 story, he has nothing else to submit. So he has to write a short story in a day. So I'll tell you what the short story is, and then I'll tell you what the regular plot is, but this whole episode is like cutting back and forth between the short story and the plot. In the short story, the entire gang, including Reggie and Cheryl, are wearing masks, and they kidnap Mr. Honey and take him to a cabin where they maple board him, which in Riverdale universe is waterboarding with maple syrup, until he agrees to leave town. However, Reggie, himbo that he is, takes off his mask, revealing their identities, so they don't know what to do because Mr. Honey, if they release him, can turn them into the police. While they're figuring out what to do, Mr. Honey has a seizure and drops dead. They bury his body, go to school the next day, and Reggie is racked with guilt because that they let Mr. Honey die, and he's acting really suspicious, like he's going to blow the cover of the entire gang for the murder they committed, basically. So they cut Reggie's brakes and he dies. I don't know if Jughead's gonna secure his spot in the Iowa Writers Workshop with his real-life fanfic about how his friends want to kill the mean principal. I don't know. In real life, Reggie is doing a senior prank where he glues Mr. Honey's butt to the seat of his chair, and because of this, Mr. Honey cancels prom. I want to know who the auteur is. Like, I don't really care that nobody can go to prom, okay? But Betty does some research and finds out that at every single school Mr. Honey has been to, he's canceled prom. So the parents get involved, and Hiram threatens Mr. Honey because he's a mobster, so prom is back on. But then Mr. Honey receives a VHS of menacing little shots of inside Riverdale High School from the auteur, and he says, well, I have to cancel prom, it's not safe. Betty is like, but the auteur's doing like scary little reenactments now with non-union actors wearing masks, why would they go back? Watches the entire tape and sees in the reflection of one of the like trophy cases, Mr. Honey. So Mr. Honey faked that video so he could cancel prom again. She reports this to the PTA and Mr. Honey quits. After he quits and goes to work at Stonewall Prep, Miss Bell, his secretary, comes out and is like, he's the best principal this school's ever had. GPA's never been higher. Not one student was murdered this year, and Jughead, he wrote you a really, really nice recommendation to the Iowa Writers Workshop, even though it's a master's program, and you're 16 years old. So Jughead goes back and rewrites his murder fantasy fanfiction, so when Mr. Honey has a seizure, they give him CPR and save him, and they do the right thing, and submits this story to Iowa Writers Workshop, okay? The voyeur leaves another VHS on the Cooper's doorstep, and against all odds, Jughead recognizes the cabin that it's being shot in, and it's the cabin where Hermione shot Sheriff Puppet. So they go to the cabin. It's creepy as fuck because the Riverdale art department has clocked in, okay? And it's like a weird little yellowing cot and like a slept in bed and like a scary little TV with static and a VHS and the VHS player being ready to play. And when they play it, it's a reenactment of Jughead's first draft of the story where everybody wearing like Reggie masks and Cheryl masks and Betty masks and Archie masks stab Mr. Honey. I feel like if you talk to the non-union actors in the Riverdale area, you could figure out who the auteur is really quick. I'm actually going to tell you the first 2 episodes of season 5 because I know you want to know who the auteur is and what the answer to some of these mysteries are, right? So Archie was going to go to the Naval Academy because his mom's girlfriend has an inn, but he like wagers his admissions into the Naval Academy in a boxing match against Katie Keane's boyfriend, loses, so he's not going to the Naval Academy. So he signs up and joins the army. Archie's going to war. What war? It doesn't matter. Riverdale's not going to touch that. Jughead realizes that the auteur's latest video is about the first draft of his story, so the auteur has to be somebody who knew about his story. The auteur releases another video, and it's of everybody in the gang, Archie, Betty, Veronica, Jughead, murdering David, the VHS store owner. So they think, oh, okay, David's dead. Veronica, meanwhile, finds the song that Archie wrote for Betty, and because it's a love song, thinks that Archie wrote her a love song. So cringe. So cringe. She sings it at Le Bon Nuit to him as like a cheeky little, I'm singing the love song you wrote to me. And this is a really tough scene to watch. It's like Camila Mendes is acting it so straight and it's just cringe, okay? Then it's senior prom. After this, like horrible singing the song he wrote for Betty. Archie at senior prom tells Veronica that he has feelings for Betty. He also tells Veronica that the song he wrote is actually for Betty. Veronica takes this relatively well because she's a better woman than I will ever be. I would commit violent acts if this happened to me. Also, Cheryl and Tony are prom queens. Love that. Then Betty gets a call from Brett, who is in prison, right? And he says he has important information for them and they have to come ASAP. When they go to Shankshaw prison where Brett is, they find that Brett is dead in his cell with his eyes gouged out because he knew too much, or saw too much, I guess, okay? Charles is there and he thinks that the voyeur killed Brett, right? So the gang decide that probably the creepy, weird little video store porn distributor David, who isn't actually dead yet, is probably the voyeur. But then they go to the scary cabin to collect clues and David is hanging there dead. So they're like, great, the voyeur's dead. Awesome. Also Hermosa, remember her? Veronica's half-sister. She hired street toughs to beat up Hiram. So now the family business is being run by Hermosa and Veronica. It's not being run by Hermione because Hermione is joining the Real Housewives of New York City. That's why Andy Cohen has been here just resting the entire time. It's time for graduation. And Penelope, the most questionable mother figure in the history of television, as a graduation present to Cheryl, poisons all of the extended relatives in the Blossom family so that Cheryl is the permanent executor of the Blossom will. Awesome graduation present. Nana Rose is still alive, but everyone else is dead. Cheryl decides that she's going to stay in Riverdale and run the Blossom family empire, so her and Tony are going to break up because Tony's going to college. Donna, who isn't arrested but on the run, calls Betty and says that she's worried that she's going to get murdered now because Brett's been murdered and Joan's been murdered. So yikes. Oh wait, I gotta go here. So many people have died and I forgot to have them be dead. Sorry about that. That's on me. The auteur releases another video and it's of the inside of the Cooper house while everyone is sleeping in it and they run like a knife really scarily along Jellybean's cheek, very creepy. An important thing to note is that David killed himself. So this proves that David could not be the auteur, even though he's an ancillary character, so that would be a really lame reveal, because the auteur is still creating videos after David has died. Betty thinks that the auteur is Charles, because he has access to the family and the serial killer gene, so they confront him. He admits that he is a serial killer. But he's not the auteur. He killed Brett and Joan because he's a serial killer who only kills people who deserve it. He had Chick in prison kill Brett because they're in cahoots, okay? So he goes fully to jail, and then Jughead has a light bulb moment and realizes who the auteur is. And it's Jelly Bean Jones. She has access to the family, an interest in film. She would know about Jughead's story. She got like one of her friends to film the knife being put on her cheek, all that stuff. And she did it because she knew that Jughead loves a mystery. And if she could craft a perfect enough mystery, he would stay in town and not go to college, which is really sweet. Also, Betty tells Jughead about the kiss between her and Archie, and he says it's fine, but he's obviously very upset about it. And the squad make a time capsule, okay? And they make a pact that in a year from now, they're gonna come back and open the time capsule. This is everyone. We got Reggie, Veronica, Jughead, Cheryl, Tony, Kevin, Archie, Betty. And in a year's time, only Jughead comes back. So everyone's moved on with their lives. Okay, next video, we're going to cover the 7-year time jump in Riverdale. The next season is so good. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for waiting for part 2 of the Riverdale videos. These videos take me a very long time to do, and I'm going to get the part 3 up sooner than 3 months this time. And that's a Carly Thorne promise. Thank you so much for watching. My Instagram and everything is in the description below. I will see you next time. Yeah, take care of yourself. Bye!